Tectone went to court today, and he lost the court case against Pink Chew. Tectone, with his 5 lawyers, lost. She had 1, and she won. That's how bad it was. For the next 10 years, Tectone can't own guns and has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Thanks, Ms. Kiff. We can always trust you to report things accurately. In case you haven't heard, Twitch streamer Tectone and an ex-girlfriend of his who goes by Pink Chew have been in a legal battle after Pink Chew publicly accused Tectone of sexually assaulting her. Recently, Pink Chew filed for a protective order, which is to prevent stalking and harassment, and Tectone lost a motion to get it dismissed. Now, before we get into all
so, like, we covered that part briefly already, and we even asked Tectone a couple more questions about that stuff, so...
Let me just say that I'm not even remotely neutral on whose side I'm on. I started out neutral. I started out with the mindset of, let's take a look at the facts of the case. Maybe there's some nuance here.
That was
Maybe
pretty much
both
my
parties
opinion.
did something bad at certain points. Usually that's how relationships in particular work. But my mind changed when I began researching, and I think after you guys watching see the details, you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, which is that this is a massive failure of the justice system, which is why this video is a defense of Tectone. It's about how, in my opinion, none of the assault allegations were true, and it's about how this whole situation was a coordinated effort from multiple streamers to ruin his career. That being said, Tectone, or John, is a popular Twitch streamer who started out by playing gacha games.
I played Genshin Impact, so you don't have to. So it's Breath of the Wild, but worse, but with waifus. Also, be careful of shit-talking Paimon's English voice acting.
More recently, Tectone is known for calling out how entitled the least talented video game voice actors are, and for helping expose Hassan Piker as an animal abuser. And this is Pink Chew.
Hey, officer, you ever realize how hard it is to say rough 2 times in a row?
Rough?
Good boy.
Well, that was cringe. Anyway, Pink Chew, who also goes by her middle name Ashley, is an OnlyFans creator who's achieved success after getting a very noticeable amount of plastic surgery, followed by a generous use of photo editing tools. I mean, this is an insane amount of catfishing. I'm not even looking at the same person when I compare a live stream to a photo of her.
I don't really care what she looks like. I'm not very interested in dogging on someone's looks,
Which brings us to November 20th, 2024.
That has no bearing on the
Pink
case.
Chew goes on an alternate account to make a post accusing someone of forcing her into oral sex. And everyone immediately assumed that she was talking about Tectone.
If you can believe it, Tectone actually is a piece of shit. His ex-girlfriend, Pinky Chew, she's come out to speak about his sexual assault against her. How do you know that she's referring to Tectone? Because it's on LSF and they're not following each other anymore.
She's referring to this live stream fails post from an anonymous account announcing that Pink Chew was referring to Tectone. I mean, there were also obvious context clues like saying they live together. And who posts something to a public forum if they believe that the audience isn't going to know who they're talking about? So let's be clear, everybody on the internet knew this was Tectone despite her not saying his name in the post. So obviously Tectone had to respond, and he did so at first by not specifically naming who he was talking about.
So if you're confused, you're going to stay confused. Because this shit is not about content for me. Okay? I know the person who needs to hear this is going to hear this. And I mean this genuinely. I did everything for you. I helped you with everything. I fixed everything for you. I was there for you like nobody else was there for you in your whole life. Your words, not mine.
Now, he does sound pretty mad here, which is why people such as Denims interpreted this as a definite
I mean, like, again, to be fair, if I was being accused of some heinous shit, even if my name was not specifically mentioned, but if there were enough context clues to link me to it, I'd probably also be pretty mad. I feel like that's a normal human emotion when someone accuses you of being something that you are not in a heinous way, right? Just curious, how could she prove she was assaulted when they were in a relationship? It seems like a he said, she said situation. And that's what I said when I looked at all of this stuff the first time. It's like, it's her saying this happened and him saying this didn't happen, and her dropping a criminal complaint, but then getting a restraining order, or whatever they're called, protective order, from a very biased judge from what it looked like.
Information that he was an abuser.
Your words, not mine.
Oh my god, he even talks like an abuser. Holy shit.
Very glad Tectone is such a dumbass that he doesn't realize how bad this makes him look.
Oh yeah, the problem is that he has an inflated ego and he's stupid, which is like a horrible combination to have.
Well, it's like this goes back to the like oversharing on the internet kind of thing, right? Like when someone vague posts like that and you know people are going to track it back to you, you feel the need to like say something to defend yourself, right? Because like otherwise people are just going to hound you about it, and it's going to spiral out of control, and it's going to snowball. But then if you address it and you say something, people are also going to snowball it. So it's like, you're in this catch-22 of, do I say something and it gets worse after I say something, or do I not say something and just let it get worse in that regard? Which, like, the latter is typically where you would go, especially if you're expecting some kind of, like, court case. Or if you would try and, like, do something in regards to, hey, they're trying to libel me. Because if it didn't happen and you're trying to ruin the reputation, that would be a big problem. I don't know.
Well, that was the projection of the century. And though maybe that video out of context was a bad look for Tectone, trust me, as we go over the court transcript, not Mizkiv's transcript that his idiot friend wrote, the actual court transcripts. So when we go over the real transcript, you're going to understand why Tectone was a little angry there. In fact, I think he was quite polite. That transcript is infuriating knowing that it was used to take someone's First and Second Amendment rights away for 10 years. Anyway, on November 22nd, 2024, 2 days after Pink Chu makes her allegations, Tectone confirms on Twitter that Pink Chu was talking about him.
Probably should not have made this tweet. Right, like, again, this is a kind of like, maybe you needed the gift of foresight, but a lot of times less is more until you have, like, a fuck ton of receipts you could provide, right?
Says that she has 2 weeks to apologize and admit that her allegations were false, or he will sue her for what I imagine was defamation, citing that he will also pursue legal action against those who knowingly repeat her lies with reckless disregard for the truth. Tectone goes on to say that he's willing to work with law enforcement and is ready to prove his innocence. And then Keemstar comments with some words of wisdom at the end, which brings us to Travis County in Texas on January. And then Keemstar comments with some words of wisdom.
Keemstar said, "I have no idea why all you streamers date these OnlyFans clout demons. You guys always get wrecked in the end, one way or another." Can we all just have a moment for the original man taken down by a thought when Ray William Johnson tried to bring his girlfriend onto his channel and she just absolutely ruined everything for him? Can we just remember that, man? True and real.
At the end, which brings us to Travis County in Texas on January 23rd of 2020.
Is Keem much better? He's in a poly relationship. He's in a poly relationship. All I remember is the fucking Keem cock from that one leak.
And a hearing for a protective order filed by Linda Ashley Lamar, that's Pink Chu, against John Robertson, that's Tectone.
Tectone with his 5 lawyers.
Tectone and his 1 lawyer, that's 1 lawyer in this case. I don't know why you would lie about something that was so easy to disprove.
Because people don't bother checking things. They'll just listen to someone, right? There's like no extra information.
Smart. I'm not going live and saying things that are stupid. I'm not going live and being not strategic with my words and my actions. I'm being smart.
Right. Mizkiv sent a friend of his to go to court and take notes on the day of the
We have determined that was a lie.
Hearing. Seems like the information wasn't very accurate. So Tectone's 1 lawyer is Joffrey Purrier, a guy with an enviable jawline.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he looks like a fucking cape shit character. He looks like he would have been in a fucking Superman movie in the 1980s, bro. Holy shit. Isn't Mizkif the guy who abused Emiru? Yeah, he's the one who's afraid of Kirby plushies.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
His lawyer is Michelle
As far as I know.
Aspiring self-help influencer.
Life is a journey. Life has ups and downs.
Very insightful words of wisdom. Last, the case is being heard by Judge Dimple Malhotra. Just for clarification, this is a civil case. Conveniently, a lot of these types of allegations seem to be tried in civil courts, probably because the burden of proof there is much lower than in criminal court.
I want you to understand something, chat, that the judge agreed with that. Now, the judge was not empowered to put him in prison directly because that was not a criminal case. Had it been a criminal case and had he been given a bench trial, he would have gone to prison as a
I don't think you can say that because the protective order case is only like, is there a greater than 50% probability that this could be true? Whereas a criminal case has to be like beyond a reasonable doubt, did this happen? Like they have completely different thresholds for having them get passed. So I don't know how you would extrapolate that from one to the other. Oh, that's Mike from PA? Oh, fuck, bro.
Right then.
God, these idiots are annoying. For those of you who don't know, Mike from PA is the guy who pretended to be a licensed attorney to run for the Pennsylvania legislature, but the state Supreme Court kicked him off the ballot after they found him misrepresenting himself. Now he's pretending to be an authority on the law on Twitch.
What?
Spoilers, most of the law influencers get shit wrong all the time, and they aren't really that trustworthy. Anyway, in reality,
I wonder why, right? Because like you would think if you're like a law tuber thing, like you would kind of know what you're talking about, at least in your area of expertise, right? Like you might not be able to ask like an immigration lawyer about some other kind of niche lawyer area, right? But like I don't know, it seems like they should know. Narrative and spin? That's kind of weird. Almost all law tubers are failed lawyers. I mean, I don't know. That just seems weird to me.
There was a police investigation, but it didn't go anywhere, let alone prosecute. So Pink Chu claimed that she would put a pause on pressing criminal charges because she was afraid of Tectone retaliating, which I don't believe because he publicly said he would cooperate with the police. And also, if Pink Chu was actually afraid, she wouldn't have continued to attack Tectone legally. Personally, I think the only
what do you mean you would be too afraid of pursuing the criminal case? Because if something actually happened, you could get the criminal case passed and then you would be like fully protected because he would get put away, would he not? So like what kind of logic are we working off of here?
The reason that a protective order was filed is because she wants to attack him, and there's no way in hell that she would have won a criminal case. Now, just so it's less confusing and because there's no video of this hearing, as we go over the transcript, I'll put pictures on the side of who is talking. That being said, Pink Chu's lawyer starts her opening statement by blaming Pink Chu's lack of evidence to corroborate her story on the fact that she's autistic.
That is the single dumbest thing I have heard about this case thus far. If she was actually autistic, she would have like a complete Rolodex of evidence of everything that had happened, because she would have started collecting this shit to make herself feel less crazy. You know, ask me how I know that obsessive receipt keeping when you feel like you're being paranoid is something someone autistic would do. I've actually been told by people that I've talked to and confided in that I should stop keeping receipts because it will just make me feel worse. And it's like, make me feel worse that I have evidence to use against people that want to do bad things to me? What the fuck do you mean by this? They're like, well, it'll just create drama if you defend yourself. And it's like, nope, fuck you. Absolutely fuck you. Literal one line, and you're already much more on Tectone's side. I think your brain pulsed for a second there. It's actually crazy. Your Honor, my client is a dumb whore. Always keep receipts, brother man.
Pink Chu's primary argument here is that as a person who was nearly 30 at the time, she didn't realize that she was being abused until someone else told her, because she's very slightly autistic. What, did they take that argument from TikTok? So anyway, you know, if there's like a mountain of evidence showing that this was all consensual, well, just ignore that because Pink Chu changed her mind after the breakup and after Tectone got into a relationship with a different woman. What a convenient set of circumstances. That being said, let's go to the first allegation of assault. Pink Chu said that she had recently gotten breast implants, so this is a plastic surgery related allegation. Now, I'm going to redact some of this information to make it YouTube safe, but the page numbers are all there, so you can just look it up for yourself. Basically, the allegation was that Pink Chu could not perform because of her recent surgery, so Tectone found other non-consensual means, allegedly.
Much love to this queen. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that and then probably get traumatized altogether one more time in the court process, but at least now you have a moment of respite.
To further elaborate on the context here, Pink Chu testifies that she had been living with Tectone in exchange for sexual favors. Personally, I don't believe this version of the story at all.
What? What? What was the arrangement that you had before you moved in with regards to rent? Answer, I would just help him with some thumbnails, so in my assumption, it would just be helping him because I do graphic design and media. So I like make his thumbnails and edited some things for him. So the record is clear. What are the thumbnails? When he posts things like YouTube videos, like I'd go in Photoshop and create a graphic design for him. Okay, at some point, did the arrangement for rent changed? Answer, it changed after we moved in to Chestnut Ridge.
Bad girl.
And what changed? And the answer was, it went from make this thumbnail for me to he kept telling me to suck his dick. And at that time, he would tell me, do your job, you don't pay rent. And those are the words that I clearly remember. So I'm confused now. Were they actually dating, or is she admitting to trading blowjobs for free rent? Like, what is happening here? So what she's saying is that there was never a rent arrangement and she was staying there for free. I am quite confused at this. Being a prostitute, because it's like, didn't it get floated that there was like possibly like consensual BDSM stuff? I don't think I asked Tectone that. I think that's a question I could ask. Weird nonetheless. This is why you always have a contract, even with family. No exceptions. Damn, you need to find a woman to do your thumbnails and suck your dick. You know who won't accuse you of rape after they do your thumbnails? The AI. I have AI thumbnails. You're trading blowjobs for rent. Congrats, you're his girlfriend. That's just how it works. Battleizer, thank you. Love it when the evidence trips the bullshit meter and stun locks you 4 to 10 seconds while you go, the audacity. My tism isn't your crutch. It's just like, they were trying to say like autism and anxiety. That is literally what drives me to have immaculate receipt keeping. Because it's like, if someone tries to change the situation, I'm going to show how they're a liar. That's just how it is.
After reading through the transcript, it is very clear to me that they were living together because they were in a relationship.
It says flat out admitting she lied during her testimony with her lawyer. In my opinion, she was clearly trying to misrepresent their cohabitation as purely a business transaction. And the parts that were highlighted say, question, at some point following that message to John, you entered into a romantic relationship sometime between December of 22 and let's say July of 2024. And she said yes. And then they later asked, I mean, you guys were a couple, is that fair? And then she said yes. So, which one is it? Were you in a relationship, or was he giving you free rent in exchange for blowjobs? Like, what are we doing here?
For reference, Pink Chew and Tectone's relationship started in December of 2022, and they broke up around June or July of 2024. About a month later, in July or August, Tectone meets his now fiancée, Sophia, and a few months later, in November, Pink Chew accuses Tectone of sexual assault. Which brings us to the second allegation. Again, pictures are here to indicate who is in the conversation. If you see a Q, though, that means a lawyer is talking, and if you see an A, that's going to be either Tectone or Pink Chew talking. Anyway, Pink Chew said that she had just gotten lip filler, and Tectone had forced her into oral sex, which had ruined the lip filler. Geez, another plastic surgery-related incident? Do all of her allegations have some sort of plastic surgery involved?
That is interesting, how frequently she was getting plastic surgery.
Now, is there any corroborating evidence that this happened? Not really. There may have been a doctor's...
Tectone is not good at choosing partners. As someone who's also not good at choosing partners, I can't give him too much shit for that. But I would say you could literally trade Tectone with any other streamer, right? I mean, how many can you think of off the top of your head that actually picked a decent partner and have won? There's like PewDiePie, JonTron. That's kind of where my brain stops. I'm sure there might be a couple of others, but like, as someone who's also not good at choosing partners, she thinks Asmongold is dreamy. JonTron wins. True and real. You don't date OnlyFans girls. Oh yeah, Rev's a good point. That's true. Rev is married and can't pay rent, but gets plastic surgery. Funny story, PewDiePie, his wife used to be a fan. That's pretty cool. Harmful opinions. I can always forget that Harmful Onions man is married.
Appointment where she had to get the lip filler fixed. However, that doesn't prove anything because she could have just as easily screwed up the filler through regular consensual activity or something else entirely. But these are pretty much the allegations of assault. Now, when I say that Pink Chew had no evidence of this stuff occurring, understand that her own testimony counts as evidence from a legal standpoint. So allow me to clarify what I mean. I'm saying she had no additional evidence to verify the truth of her story. And let me point out just how ridiculous this is. Tectone is a guy who is constantly on camera.
There's like a good 8 to 10 people who have already said, he didn't do it. We know he didn't do it. We were there when they said it happened. That never happened. They say there's a third girl. They don't exist. They don't realize that the entirety of, a large portion of my house is fucking filmed on the inside. I have security cameras on the inside.
That's smart, right? See, there would be some rooms I wouldn't want security cameras in, and obviously if I have someone, in my future house, I would tell them which rooms have security cameras, but it's just that's definitely something I can understand having as a streamer of Tectone size.
That's how fucking paranoid I am.
This is a guy who streams for multiple hours a day, plus the couple streams that he did with Pink Chew. You're going to tell me that you have no footage, no audio recordings, and no text that make him look abusive or make him look like a stalker? You also have no testimony from other witnesses saying that Tectone was abusing you? This is despite the fact that there were 2 roommates living with them the entire time. So either Tectone is this master manipulator who can get away with all of this without a trace, which is a weird thing to argue.
Even if he did say, suck my dick, you don't pay rent, and she does it, that sounds like a rental agreement to me. Again, I don't know if they had any sort of BDSM, dom, sub kind of thing. But that, if I were reading this outside of a court case situation, I would be like, that just sounds like she was into a bit of humiliation sexually. You know? She wanted him to, grab her hair and be like, you don't pay rent, suck my dick. Right? And Tectone has always been a one-woman man. He's like a golden retriever. May do dumb dog things, but honest and loyal. I mean, I haven't known him very long, you know? In civil, with a judge, the requirement to prove innocence or guilt is much more lax from your knowledge, with judges able to decide guilty or innocence on what many would see as flimsy evidence. Yeah, it's greater than 50% chance that it is possible. Rent ain't gonna pay itself. Not gonna degrade your women because that shit becomes fraudulent court evidence. Like, I can see why guys are wary about doing that kind of thing in current year, because holy shit.
Because his opposition is constantly calling him stupid.
When he's literally I don't know how anyone fucking ever listened to this guy.
He's dumb as f. I honestly think he needs to be arrested just so he can experience what that is like, so he shuts the f up and goes away.
I genuinely don't understand how someone could be so fucking stupid to think that this is a good response.
So either he is this master manipulator who can fool anyone, or none of this shit happened, in my opinion. On that note, Pink Chu's lawyer has finished questioning her client, so let's go to cross-examination from Tectone's lawyer, Joffrey. Before we get into this, though, it requires some backstory. For those of you who didn't know, Tectone was previously married for like 10 years to a woman whose name is Jessica. They divorced a while back. Now, to me, the details here are kind of murky because an NDA was signed, and I only really have the court transcript to piece together.
You see, now that's interesting. An NDA was signed? Like, in the divorce? That seems kind of crazy. Why is there an NDA in the divorce? An NDA for divorcing? Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of wild. There was an allegation, you think, that they both admitted to, but you can't remember, where they wrote whore on her forehead? I wouldn't know. Maybe that's brought up in the video? I have no idea. Didn't Boogie and his wife also have an NDA when they divorced? Who the hell signs an NDA for a divorce? Maybe public figures? I don't know. I've never been married or asked to sign an NDA. Weren't they both streamers? I think so, yeah.
Together what was going on. But remember how I said that Tectone has cameras everywhere?
Yes.
Well, it turns out that his ex-wife still had remote access to the cameras after the divorce, and allegedly, she was using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pink Chu to blackmail them.
What? Hold on.
Allegedly, she was using...
Pink Chu and Tectone meet and find a connection. 5/16. Prior to December 2022, Tectone and Pink Chu had never met. On the suggestion of a common acquaintance, Jay the Bard, Pink Chu was urged to reach out to Tectone. 5/17, on December 15th, 2022, in response to Tectone posting about his divorce, Pink Chu sent a direct message to Tectone on X, offering him support. This was the first time that Tectone and Pink Chu had ever interacted. 5/18, after that initial contact, Tectone and Pink Chu quickly struck up a friendship and soon realized they had a lot in common. Eventually, after hanging out continuously over a couple of days, Tectone and Pink Chu started a private romantic relationship in December 2022. Kurzum and a jealous Freem spy on intimate moments of Tectone and Pink Chu. What? 5/19, while married and living with Tectone, Freem installed security cameras around the house that Tectone and Freem were living in. Tectone had never had access to the cameras and assumed that Freem had removed them when she moved out of the house in September. Okay, see, the court document says Freem installed security cameras around the house and Tectone didn't have access to them. But we just saw a clip where Tectone said that he's paranoid so that he has cameras in his house. So I'm a little confused on the cameras. Did he know about them and have access to them because he also admitted to having them? Or did he just decide to keep them afterwards because he liked the idea of them being there? Maybe two different sets of cameras? I don't know. That one's a little weird. That one doesn't make sense to me. Why would a paranoid person not have access to his own cameras? Yeah. And I mean, if there's an NDA, then this isn't even something he could talk about, is it? You'd assume they were her cameras while living together? Maybe. I don't know. Here, 5/20. Unknown to Pink Chu, Freem and Kurzum, I don't know who the fuck Kurzum is, recorded Pink Chu and Tectone on at least 3 separate occasions. December 20th, 2022, December 25th, 2022, and December 29th, 2022. Some of these encounters involved private and intimate moments between Pink Chu and Tectone. That's, fucking wild. What the fuck?
Using some intimate footage between Tectone and Pink Chu.
Spattens? Freem mentioned that her ex-husband was Tectone. Spattens mentioned that Tectone was intimidating because Tectone was larger and louder than Spattens, which was extremely rare. What? Unprovoked, Freem responded that Spattens shouldn't be intimidated by Tectone because he has a quote-unquote micro-penis. What? Weirded out by the conversation, Spattens directed the conversation in a different direction and excused himself shortly after. Okay, good. I'm glad that was weird for him too. Ouch, baby. Ouch, dude. 5/26. Subsequently, Ani and Spattens, I don't know what that means, attended a few anime nights at Freem's apartment, but again, Freem started spreading rumors about Tectone and Pink Chu, including Tectone having a micro-penis, and that Tectone paid for Pink Chu's plastic surgery to make her more similar to Freem. What? Essentially, Freem would take every opportunity to disparage Tectone and Pink Chew, and while making her disparaging remarks, Freem would be in a chipper yet spiteful tone. This toxic treatment pushed Batniz and Ani away from Freem. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, what am I reading? What is this? Tectone and Pink Chew learned that Freem is the source of the rumors. On August 30th, 2023, Zizix Prime, real name currently unknown, visited Tectone and Pink Chew. During their visit, Tectone mentioned that for some reason, Kitnetic told me someone is doing something illegal to me, to Zizix Prime. In response, Zizix Prime pulled Tectone aside and explained the entire situation to him. However, Pink Chew did not learn of the conversation's substance until the next week. This is fucking crazy. Why is that Delulu nonsense in court documents? I have no idea what's going on. Maybe Tectone dated schizo women because of the misdiagnosis he got as a kid? I have no clue, man. How can a micropenis blowjob cause ruined lip injection? I don't know, maybe it's short but fat? Question mark? Tectone was making these girls crazy the same way that Turkey Tom did. I still do not know anything about the Turkey Tom situation. You're gonna say he's clearly got a type. He likes some crazy, I guess. The following week, this is the highlighted portion. The following week, Tectone sat down with Pink Chew and explained that Freem had sent intimate footage of Tectone and Pink Chew, which was recorded in December of 2022, to Kitnetic and Musashi, the CEO of Mythic Talent. What the fuck? What? Why would you send footage that you've illegally recorded of people in their house to your, like, fucking talent organization owner? What am I even reading? Like, as a complete outside person who has no idea about any of this is just confounding. How is this not a crime? That's a great question. Also, hold up. A month after Zizix Prime visited, Christian from GamerSubs. How is GamerSubs implicated in this? What is happening?
To blackmail them. And how this didn't land his ex-wife in jail is beyond me. Anyway, a lawsuit was filed.
Yeah, I'm with the fucking YouTube guy on this. I've already forgotten his name. I'm with this guy. How the fuck was that not a crime? What the fuck? Oh no, not my thick talent. What the fuck is going on? Freem also said he made Pikachu get gag reflex surgery, which he wouldn't need if, you know. What? Is she the one that said that? Because I heard that, like, that was a rumor that was happening, but, like, why? What the fuck is happening? What am I even reading? You can't gayify Tectone now. He's finally won. You've rarely been so glad to not have roommates. This is why, like, you know, as fun as, like, streamer houses sound like they could be, I'm one of those autists that just, like, I would not want to live with strangers. I would not want to put up with, like, ramifications of living with people that I only know on, like, a surface level basis, you know?
Then a part of this lawsuit included Pink Chew suing Tectone's ex-wife because she called her Tectone's sex slave. Let me repeat.
Holy shit! Oh my god! How are you gonna sue Tectone's ex-wife for calling you Tectone's sex slave and then try to take Tectone to court accusing him of basically using you as a sex slave? What is happening? Why are women?
We just don't know.
Eat this. Pink Chew sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone.
Hold on.
Pink Chew
Hold on,
sued
I
his
want
ex
to read this.
because she called her Tectone's sex slave.
Tectone was caught on camera, but she called me on the counter. Freem called Tectone and asked Tectone, is she better than me? Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Oh, my God. Oh, okay. Sorry, I needed like a recovery period from that. After exposing that Freem and Kurzum had been spying on Tectone and Pink Chew, Freem intentionally tried to inflict pain on Tectone by exposing that Freem had cheated on Tectone with Kurzum while they were living together. After wrapping up the phone call with Freem, Tectone explained the situation to Pink Chew and promised that Freem would delete the footage and remove the cameras. I have a question. If these are cameras in Tectone's house where he was living with Pink Chew, why would Freem be the one to remove the cameras? Like, it's his house. He should just remove them, right? Is this an NTR manga plot? If not, someone should make it. Yeah. I don't even know half the people they're referencing. One man's she belongs in a psych ward is another. She's all I ever wanted. Freem starts intentionally lying about Pink Chew. In January 2023, Pink Chew attended IkiCon, an anime convention hosted in Austin, Texas. Okay. Freem also attended and spread rumors about Tectone and Pink Chew. Specifically, Freem spread that Pink Chew was Tectone's quote-unquote new girl. However, the romantic relationship between Tectone and Pink Chew was in its infancy, and the two had not placed a public label on it. As such, Tectone spent the rest of the event trying to clarify these rumors. Despite Tectone trying to tamp down any rumors spread by Freem, the rumor mill was still churning at full speed. From January 23 to August 23, disgusting lies were spread about Pink Chew and Tectone. The lies included Tectone cheating on Freem with Pink Chew being a homewrecker that broke up the marriage of Freem and Tectone. Pink Chew had several cosmetic surgeries and was considering more, such as gag reflex surgery, and Tectone was paying for them. And Tectone was grooming Pink Chew as a sex slave due to her autism. Well, damn, that makes Tectone sound like Dr. Evil. Where's his little cat? It's just a requirement that you stalk and harass Tectone and any woman he gets with after you if you're a woman that wants to date him. I don't know. Please don't stalk people like that, though. Does Tectone just date crazy women? It's sounding like it. On July 4th, 2024, Freem attended a 4th of July party hosted by Ani and attended by Spatnaz. The real names of both individuals are unknown at this time. During the party, Ani and Spatnaz met Freem for the first time, and during one interaction...
Let me repeat this. Pink Chew sued his ex-wife because she accused her of being victimized by Tectone.
These rumors that were spread about you and John, answer yes. Q, and further you believed the idea or the rumor that you were going to have gag reflex surgery you believed was a disgusting lie. Answered yes. Question, and in June of 2024 you believed that the idea that John was grooming you as a sex slave, that was a disgusting lie. And Pink Chew answered at the time, yes. Lawyer asks, okay, and again, this is less than a month after this May 28th or May 29th incident that you put down in your application for a protective order. She answered, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Pink Chew said it was defamatory to call her an abuse victim. Not only that, but this lawsuit occurs 1 month after her alleged incidents of abuse, and she says these claims about her from Tectone's ex-wife were disgusting lies. What a weird thing to say, right? So that's our first counter to Pink Chew's story, and just right there, throw the case out. You mean to tell me that someone called her an abuse victim and she spent money suing them to say, no, I'm not? The second part of this is that Pink Chew went to a mental hospital in July of 2024, around 1 to 2 months after the alleged victimizations.
And this court doc says, question, and so the Austin Oaks, where did you go after? Let me back up a little bit. How long were you at Austin Oaks? Pink Chew said 3 days. Lawyer asks, okay, and what were your discharge instructions? Answer is just redacted. I can't remember what it was, but instead I decided to go ahead and see a therapist. Question, okay, and did you actually have any acts of, like, did you intentionally self-harm, or? Answered, no. Question, so what was the reason you went? And Pink Chew answered, I just needed to get out of the house. I think at the time I was just confused. Like, I knew something in my gut was wrong, like how I was being treated, but, you know, he was telling me otherwise, and I was just confused, and I called my sister, and I said I just needed to get out. I just need to see somebody. I need to get out of this place. I calmly packed up my clothes, told my roommate, hey, I'm going to be leaving, I'm not feeling good, and then my sister drove me. I went there, and they said, hey, there's nothing we can really do, you're fine. But if you want, you can admit yourself to get evaluated.
When she's being questioned by her lawyer, she states that she went to the hospital because she just had to get out of the house. And if your first thought was, that makes no sense, then I would agree with you. This sounds like a lie. Now, I'm not a fan of Illymation, but I do think she has a very insightful video on mental hospitals. People don't go to mental hospitals just because they wanted to get out of the house. They go because they're either a danger to others or they're afraid of harming themselves.
Facilities like this save lives every day. There are 2 types of admission. The first is voluntary, which is where you go to the emergency room and say, "Hi, I don't feel safe. Can you please help me?" And the second is involuntary, which is where your doctor or psychiatrist feels you're at grave risk to yourself or others. So they write you a note and send you to the hospital.
So it's a weird downplay from Pink Chew to say that she just needed to get out of the house. If she wanted to do that, she could have just checked herself into a hotel or something. Note that Pink Chew has more than enough money to do this. Also note that this admission into a mental hospital seems to have happened directly after Tectone broke up with her, so I'm guessing that the breakup caused thoughts of self-harm. Actually, it looks like the redactions here suggest something a little bit worse than self-harm. So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital was a psychologically healthy thing to do.
Yeah, I
However,
can agree with that.
the issue with this hospital visit is that it works as evidence against her story of abuse.
I kind of want to go back and
so
read
honestly,
this.
I
always expect him to read them and then
her.
he doesn't. Important to be honest, to be complete, to be accurate in the answers you provided. Is that fair? Answer, to the best of my knowledge. Question. For instance, they asked you about your history of your present illness on page 15 and you indicated that you, quote, redacted. She said, when I'm in high stress situations. Question, okay, and then you go on to say that was the reason that you believed John broke up with you. Answer, no, I don't. Oh, the first time that wasn't. I don't believe that was the reason the first time. Question, okay. Answer, I broke up. Are you talking about the time where we, like, mutually talked, or are you talking about the time that I broke up with him? Question, in the medical records, you described it redacted, and that's why you believe John broke up with you was because redacted. Answer, do you mind telling me what page that is on? Question, sure, that's on page 15. Answer, I don't see that. I just see redacted. Question, and that's how you, in those medical records. Question, okay, and again, you detail that you get redacted. Do you get redacted? She answered, I mean, anyone who is getting abused gets pretty redacted. Question, okay. Answer, Question, do you redact it? Answer, I haven't in the past year since I've been out of the situation. Question, okay, but at the time you were. Answer, not in front of anyone. It was more of like by myself. Question, so if it was by yourself, then why do you think that's... Why at the time in July of 2024 did you believe that was the reason John broke up with you? Answer, I believed they probably miswrote when I was explaining to them because I was probably crying and stuff. Question, oh, okay. But the quotation marks there, you think that they maybe mischaracterized what you told them. Answer, I think they may have, like... So if I'm reading this correctly, she didn't remember what she told other people that was on page 15 of this court document, and he's asking her about what she told them about the timeline, and she's saying, they might have misquoted me, I don't remember this. So that kind of shows that there's like a bit of a dip in the timeline, I would say. If she's saying that, like, she was misquoted or it was miswrote and she can't remember what was happening.
So honestly, I think checking herself into the mental hospital was a psychologically healthy thing to do. However, the issue with this hospital visit is that it works as evidence against her story of abuse. Let me start by saying that when she's being questioned by her lawyer, Pink Chew said that after she got back from Austin Oaks, the mental hospital, she moved in with her mom, but as she was getting her stuff from Tectone's house, she told a roommate of his about how afraid she was of Tectone. Now,
so this one says, okay, so did you self-admit? And Pink Chew said yes. Question, and when you were discharged or left Austin Oaks, did you go back into the same residence with Mr. Robertson? Answered no. Question, okay, where did you go after that? Answer, I went to my mom's. I did go to his house to collect items that when he wasn't there, and that's when I confided in my, at the time, his roommate, that I guess that was going to be moving in. I said, I'm afraid of him. I'm really scared. I'm going to go ahead and stay at my mom's because I can't be here. Question, and you heard opposing counsel indicate in opening that you didn't make any reference to Mr. Robertson being abusive when you went to Austin Oaks. Do you recall him saying that? Answer, I'm sorry. Question, I'll rephrase. Do you recall opposing counsel in his opening statements making comments that you didn't mention anything wrong about Mr. Robertson when you were at Austin Oaks? Pink Chew said, yes, I remember.
Anytime you go to the hospital or see a doctor, they're going to ask you, why are you here? Surely if Tectone was so abusive that she just had to get out of the house, and she had to tell his roommate how afraid she was, she would have also told the doctors, well, you see, I have this really abusive ex-boyfriend, but she didn't.
Yeah, that does seem like something you would tell the doctors of the mental institution that you checked yourself into voluntarily, and then immediately after leaving that mental institution, You decided to tell someone that supposedly you didn't tell any of the doctors there? That seems a little weird. That seems like something you would have told the doctors.
Do that. In fact, the doctors specifically asked her if she had been a victim of abuse. Pink Chu.
So this is another conversation. July 29th, 2024 was redacted. Is that correct? Answer yes. Question. And they go on to ask your entire history of sexual victimization. Again, not just sexual assaults, not a criminal offense, but any sexual victimization at all over your lifetime. And you say redacted, but you clarify and explain that redacted. Is that correct? And Pink Chu answered yes. Question. Okay, you would agree with me that at no point in this question do you mention any intimate interaction that you had with John, that you don't discuss anything related to John at all. Is that correct? And she said, no, I did not. Question. Okay, and you understood at the time that you needed to be honest, complete, and accurate in the information and answers that you were providing. She said, to the best of my current knowledge. Question is, okay, they also ask you on page 16 of those, have you experienced any emotional, physical, or sexual abuse history in any way? And you disclose that, redacted. Answered, yes. Question, okay, and was that the relationship that you...
Says yes, but she doesn't mention Tectone. She mentions a prior non-Tectone relationship, and that's it.
And he has a little asterisk on the side that said, I messed this up a slight bit due to bad memory and the confusing nature of the transcript. Pink Chu mentions 2 instances of sexual assault. Once here as a child and a second time on page 147 from an ex-boyfriend 6 years prior. It is unclear to me what exactly she mentions at the hospital because of the redactions. However, she clearly states that Tectone was not mentioned. And in the highlight it says, we're in 6 years prior to going into Austin Oaks. And she said, I was a child. Question, okay, do you discuss your relationship sexual abuse in this answer? And she said, you mean with John? Wait, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Lawyer asks, I mean any adult sexual victimization. Do you discuss that in this answer? And she said, no, I don't believe I did. Question, okay. Did you mention any sexual abuse in this answer at John's hands? Answer, I believe I only put it redacted in there. Question, okay. At any point in any of these records, do you discuss, according to your testimony, these multiple vicious, brutal, sexual, coerced sexual encounters that you had with John? And she said, no. Question, okay. And again, this was just 2 months after the last alleged brutal oral sexual victimization that you had experienced. And she answered, and before I had confided and got clarification of what was going on. What does that mean? Why would you not mention it to the doctors? Question, okay, but you had been through sexual abuse before. Is that fair? You were familiar, unfortunately, with what that looks like, with what that...
Keep in mind that the time period where she is alleging the abuse happened was 1 or 2 months before she goes to the mental hospital in July. Also keep in mind that Pink Chu testified that she told Tectone's roommate 3 or so days after this questioning from the mental hospital, or around the same time, that
and this is just, I think this is a repeat of what we read earlier. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll rephrase.
She was afraid of Tectone, noting that his roommate did not come in to testify on her behalf. She can't even get that corroborated. So I don't see how this can be considered as anything other than crucial evidence that Pink Chu is making all of these allegations up.
That is a good point. If she confided in this roommate after she was released from the mental hospital, why isn't that roommate testifying on her behalf? Why are they not able to get a corroborating story from that individual?
Now, her argument for why she didn't report to the mental hospital that she had been assaulted by Tectone is because she just didn't see it that way at the time. But again, immediately after she gets out of the hospital to collect her stuff, she tells Tectone's roommate about how scared she is. Conveniently, this change of story happens in a place where it couldn't be documented as evidence. Because
conveniently, for one, but also for two, the other lawyer, Tectone's lawyer, had a good point where it's like, you've unfortunately been a victim of these kinds of things before, so surely you know what it looks like when it's happening.
You know, if you were an abuse victim who is fleeing your house because you're afraid of your ex-boyfriend, certainly you would want to tell medical staff later so it could be used as evidence in a police investigation. This is why I don't believe anything that Pink Chu says. There are tons of holes in her story and really nothing to defend her outside of taking her word for it. But that's not all. Before Pink Chu goes to the mental hospital, there are text messages between her and Tectone, where Tectone, or John, says, text me when you're on your way, and please be safe.
So this says, definition of an acute mental health crisis, but you felt like you needed to go, and she said, I just needed to get out of there. I don't know if this is Tectone's lawyer, Jeffrey Purrier. I'm assuming it's Tectone's lawyer. But he said, okay, and then again, John says, text me when you're on your way, and please be safe, be careful. And she says, The lawyer asks, correct, and you eventually tell him, I'm going to Austin Oaks, and that's when you check yourself in. And she replied, yes. He asks, is that fair? She replies, yes. He asks, okay, I want to ask you about that process, and when you go into Austin Oaks, they ask you a bunch of screening questions. Is that fair? And she said, yes. Mr. Puyar, they ask a fair bunch of screening questions. Is that fair? She said, yes. They want to get to know your situation a little bit more, and she said, okay. And I think this is leading into where she brought up the other instances of victimization.
And then she tells him what hospital she's going to be at. He also says, if you need me, just text me. I'm sorry you're going through this.
This is a question at the top. Okay, but that was the only part that he directed you to write. She said, no, he's done it before. Question, okay, and then he responds, Jesus Christ, all right, well, be safe and trust your decision. Is that correct? And she said, yes. Question, he doesn't belittle you. And she says, not in the text. And the lawyer asked, correct, in that text, he doesn't belittle you. And she said, no, not in that text. Lawyer asked, okay, he doesn't call you crazy. She said, no, not in that text. Question, he doesn't call you psycho. And she said, no. Question, okay. He says, if you need me, just text me. I have my phone now. I am so sorry you're going through this, Pink. Correct? And she says, yes. Question, okay. He's supportive. And she says, in those texts. Question, okay, sure. And for the sake of our questions about these text messages, that's what I'm referring to. She says, okay. I'm interested in the beginning where it says, but that was the only part that he directed you to write. And she says, no, he's done it before. What exactly is he directing her to write? What has he exactly done before there? I want to know more about that.
So when I read stuff like that, I think, wow, there was so much documented evidence of Tectone being supportive, but when it comes to him being abusive, you just have to take people's word for it. Isn't that odd? This is like no case of abuse that I've ever seen. Abusive people usually leave evidence everywhere because they can't help themselves. We're not done yet. Pink Chu and Tectone's lawyer Joffrey discuss her leaving the mental hospital, and there's this part where Joffrey says, in fact, I believe he's listed, and the rest is blacked out. Judging by the context clues, I'm guessing that he's saying that Tectone was listed as an emergency contact.
I'm guessing that as well. Says, answer, it was very different. It was full-blown, crying, pulling your pants down, raping you. And, that is very different. I understand, what rape is. I didn't fully understand, sexual assault. Question, okay, I want to pivot, and I want to ask you about how so you're released from Austin Oaks, is that correct? She says, may I have a moment? I'm sorry, okay, my apologies. And he asks, you're released from Austin Oaks, and you and John continue communicating. In fact, I believe he is listed redacted. And she says, yes. Question, yes, you listed him as that. She answers, yes, because that's where I was living at the time. Question, okay, and you send John your patient access code so that he can call up to Austin Oaks, so that he can find out more information. Is that fair? And she said, I don't remember if I did that. Question, okay, if that's in those text messages, would you have any reason to disagree with that? And she said, no. And furthermore, if this is a redaction of her listing him as an emergency contact, her saying yes because that's where I was living at the time doesn't exactly make sense here if this is someone who supposedly assaulted her and she was afraid of. Because even if that's the address she was living at the time, an emergency contact is given, ability to contact you, and it's their phone number as well being put down. And if she went to live with her mother after this, why wouldn't she have put down her mother or even a friend's contact information instead of someone who supposedly assaulted her? That doesn't exactly make sense to me. I forgorbed, tee.
Considering that Tectone says stuff like, if you need anything, let me know. And Pink Chu told him what hospital she was going to be at. So again, extremely weird behavior here. Especially considering that Pink Chu communicates that her mom lives somewhere in the area. So why is she
Well, that clears that up. I was wondering if her mom lived too far away, but it's even if her mom lived far away, if I was getting out of an abusive situation and my dad lived far away and I needed an emergency contact and I didn't have one, I'd still put my dad down because it's still better than someone I'm trying to go no contact with, right? As someone who has been in several abusive relationships, you don't typically try to talk to those people. You don't list them as your emergency contacts. You try to do a full fucking cut. Just put a friend or a family and rent a hotel. You don't even need to rent a hotel, especially if her mom lived in the area.
Her alleged abuser that she's afraid of as a contact instead of her mom.
Spicy.
Moving on, let's talk about why a protection order was granted.
Rexworth, thank you for the
Texas,
raid. Welcome,
in order
Raiders.
to get a protection order, the standard of proof is reasonable to believe. This is kind of a major issue for me when it comes to family court, and I think the law around this needs to be modified to prevent abuse, especially in cases like Tectone's where there is tons of counter evidence to his accuser's story. reasonable to believe is a very low standard. It's like saying if one person thinks, yeah, that could have happened, that's enough to grant an order in Texas.
That's kind of
This standard is even lower than the more likely than not to have happened standard, which is what we're all used to hearing about in civil court cases.
This is in Texas. I want to say this again. This is not California.
I don't really understand why so many people's defense is like, he's obviously guilty because this happened in Texas. Like, I know Texas has this like crazy stereotype for being like deep south, southern band kind of place, but it's like that's just not how it is in reality anymore. Texas has some real fucking blue areas. Austin is California.
This is not New York. This is not Illinois. This is not Massachusetts. This is Texas.
He's implying that it's impossible to get an order of protection in Texas when actually it seems to be fairly easy. Here's Michelle Locke, Pink Chu's lawyer, on her podcast, saying that the standard of proof in these kinds of courts is very low.
When it comes to marriage and there are abusive instances,
my ears were in the way
how
of the
important
timestamp,
is
sorry.
it for someone to have that documented?
Your testimony alone can be enough. And people think, well, really? I don't have to have pictures or bruises? I mean, while those things would be great and helpful, it's not a requirement because judges every day make decisions based on the credibility of witnesses. And that's the bottom line. And so the court's going to look at what you say, what he or she says, and then make the call on whether it's a believable story.
Let me
once again, and I mean, you know, it was in Massachusetts, but it was in Massachusetts several decades ago. My mother was deemed an unfit parent by a judge in family court because my mother was on drugs and tried to kill herself. My father had no record of any wrongdoing. My father had a full-time job. My father had a safe place for me to live. And because my mother said that she did not want my father to have custody of me if she could not have custody of me, the judge somehow ruled, okay, we'll put her in foster care. And the only reason I didn't go into the foster care system is because my grandparents on my dad's side, my dad's parents, spoke up and said that they had a history of raising 4 children. They're the paternal grandparents, and they would like to remain in custody of their grandchild. And they were granted full custody. My entire childhood, my grandparents were listed as my legal guardians because family court is fucked. Kirsche almost got sent to Epstein Island.
Mind you that Mike from PA is not a lawyer. He's an idiot propagandist who really seems to have his own boundary issues with women. Just because guns are more legal in Texas doesn't mean that this state always favors the right. A lot of bullshit occurs in Texas, too. Also, this legal battle between Pink Chu and Tectone occurred in Travis County, which is where Austin is. Austin is like the California of Texas. But anyway, Pink Chu still has to prove that there is some sort of reason to believe that Tectone will be a danger to her. Before we go into this next section, I would like to point out that neither Michelle Locke or the judge really have a grasp over how social media works. Pink Chu's lawyer, Michelle...
I mean, most older people don't really seem to, let's be fair. Chinese gambling games, like with anime girls and characters like that? Oh my god. Question, okay, and is that how did Mr. Robertson earn income at the time, to the best of your knowledge? Answer, I believe he was making $100,000 a month. Eggy man, teach me your ways. That's crazy. $100,000 a month! That's crazy! Question, and that was from doing what in particular, if you know? Answer, he was streaming the games, and then he was also part of the very large gaming organization called One True King. They had basically all the largest streamers in Austin, and, you know, like, they had a lot of control over the space. Question, okay, and just because I don't know, is Austin a large market for streamers? Answer, it has a large market for some of the largest streamers.
Said in the transcripts that she doesn't really understand social media, and in this video that I found of the judge, she openly states that she doesn't really have an interest in being online.
What?
And so, for me, I didn't even have social media, by the way, until I knew that I had to run.
Okay, so this is very important because essentially all of Pink Chu's evidence for why she needs an order of protection and why Tectone is an ongoing threat is because of his social media posts. And if you as a judge don't understand social media, you're going to miss a ton of nuance. It's actually to the point where this court decision is quite scary and possibly a strong violation of the First Amendment. Personally, I think Pink Chu has taken advantage of the judge's lack of knowledge of social media and using that to lie. To talk about that, let's go to Exhibit 16, I think. This post from Tectone is still live, so I'll just show the actual tweet. It says, another OnlyFans woman lying about rape then just moves on. No damage done to them. ruin a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common?
And this is about the Rich Campbell lawsuit?
This is from October 21st of 2025, nearly a year after Tectone was accused, and he's signal boosting a post talking about a friend of his from OTK, who I guess was falsely accused. I don't know that situation too well, but that's what's being talked about. Pink Shoe says that she believes that the tweet was about her, and then she says that Tectone makes posts like this to try to get his fans to attack her because she does OnlyFans.
Answer, they're going to hate what I found today. Your loss is now even more inevitable. Now I wait. What a fucking anime villain thing to say. What am I reading? Question, okay, and when you see these messages that he posts like this, how did you interpret them? Like, how did it make you feel? Answer, like he's coming after me. Question, okay, and then let's go to 16. So the same month, October of 25, shortly after the protective order was filed, what does Tectone, Mr. Robertson, post yet again about this? A, another OnlyFans woman lying about rape, then just moves on, no damage done to them, ruins a man's life for 3 years. Why is this so common? Question, and did you believe that was this also related to you in a way? Answer, yes. Question, okay, and why did you believe so? Answer, what he does is he gets, basically, trains his community into hating OnlyFans or women, or also migrants and things like that. Bro, how are you going to use the migrant language when it's talking about illegal aliens, man? Come the fuck on. And also, Tectone doesn't need to groom an audience into hating OnlyFans. Prostitution might be the longest profession in the world, but it also comes with a lot of denigration from the general public. So that's defamation. Oh my god. I'm half Mexican. Oh, okay. I'm half Mexican, and just things to hate about women and women that have OnlyFans. So when he does attack me, that they're more angry towards me. Man. Question, now, have you had some of his fans come after you on these platforms? This is like trying to make a court case off of what happened recently with like Rev and Lala having a public conversation. That's kind of a crazy thing.
Which is retarded, because if you look at the comments on the tweet, you can see that people aren't talking about Pink Chew. You
Correct.
Can't even find her name by doing a text search on the page.
Correct. And she's like, he's talking about another OnlyFans whore lying about being sexually assaulted. How many times have we seen an accusation against someone be spread all over online, and then it turned out to be completely false and they were just angry at the guy? Like, this is why people took such umbrage with the Me Too movement.
In fact, you can't see this in the court transcript, but since this tweet is still live, we know who Tectone is referring to in this tweet because he's quote tweeted a post talking about Azalea Alexi. So how in the hell is this comment about Pink Chew? By the way, this is in stark difference to her allegation post, where the top comment essentially is saying, hey, you're talking about Tectone, right? The irony here is that Pink Chew herself made the argument in court that people wouldn't know who she's talking about because Tectone's name wasn't mentioned in her tweets. But
so when you vague post about Tectone, nobody's going to know who you're talking about, so it shouldn't be a problem. But when Tectone quote retweets something about Azalea Alexi, he's clearly talking about you, and that's a danger. It's very interesting how that works.
If you know anything about the internet, the minute you start vague posting like this, tons of people in the comments are going to start asking, oh my god, who is she talking about? Which will prompt all the know-it-alls to try to be the first person to say that it's Tectone. In fact,
this lawsuit page says, question, because again, that's the entire basis of that lawsuit that you filed. She said, okay. Question, is that fair? Answer, yes. Question, okay, and understanding that in your sphere of influence online, it was well known that you were in a relationship with John. And understanding that in John's sphere of influence, it was well known that he was in a relationship with you online. You would agree with me that it's reasonable that those people, upon reading that Twitter post, would come to the assumption that you're talking about him. Is that fair? And she said, not at first, until he publicly stated it himself, and he said that it was about him. Question, okay, you don't think it's reasonable at all that anybody would read that, understanding that you guys had been in a relationship, and come to the conclusion that you were talking about him. And she said, maybe some people, but not, because there was no clarification who I was talking about or any names. Question, okay, what was your intention in posting that? Answer, it was really for my friends, I think. Question, okay, People that he had been trying to isolate me. I don't understand what this, like, brain damage of I post something publicly on Twitter and it's supposed to be just for my friends. Get like a fucking private group chat. If you post it on Twitter, it is like public. What do you mean by this?
Which will prompt all the know-it-alls to try to be the first person to say that it's Tectone. In fact, here's me doing this with the false allegations against Turkey Tom.
This is Think Before You Sleep saying, imagine you get falsely accused and you get to defend yourself by showing a bunch of texts from your ex talking about how big your dick is.
You can see that I don't mention Tom in the post. People are asking who I'm talking about, and if you scroll through the comments, you can see several people explaining the reference. This is not like a secret behavior that people have. Anytime some sort of inside joke or a test question is posted on social media, tons of people go to the comment section looking for the person who will explain everything. So in my opinion, Pink Chew left Tectone's name out of this post to prevent a defamation lawsuit, but left in enough clues for people to easily figure out who she was talking about, so her followers would...
I agree with this assessment. Vague posting like this is meant to, like, put a nugget rat out into the Twitter sphere to get people talking about something that may or may not have happened without being able to take any sort of defamation suit for yourself.
Say who it was for her. If she only wanted her friends to know about these allegations like she said in court, she wouldn't have posted it on social media. Anyway, back to Tectone. Here's where it gets scary. Remember that the order of protection was granted, meaning that Tectone is not allowed to talk about Pink Chew. Her evidence that this tweet was about her was purely on the basis of Tectone bringing up OnlyFans, and because she does OnlyFans. She actually makes this argument several times. Here's another one, Exhibit 20. This tweet is also still alive, so I'll just bring it up. He's asking for OnlyFans models to stop giving life advice because you can see them naked for less than a Fortnite battle pass.
Where's her dignity? Oh, I don't know. I heard she's selling it for $5.
This is another post where if you scroll down, you can see that nobody is talking about Pink Chew. Yet she is suggesting that these posts are targeted at her and designed to train Tectone's audience into hating her. Now, if you were a judge...
Where was she giving him life advice, though, would be my question. Like, why is she taking that so personally in that regard?
Judge who doesn't use social media that much, you would think, oh, well, that makes sense. Obviously, he's only mentioning OnlyFans because Pink Chew does OnlyFans. Why would anybody else talk about that? Except, talking about OnlyFans girls is an entire meta of content creation that has existed for years. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with people like Morgpie trying to bend Twitch's rules so she can show her boobs to 13-year-olds and try to get them addicted to pornography. Maybe some of these women deserve to be criticized, so citing these posts as threats and possibly suggesting that Tectone can never talk about OnlyFans because of the order of protection, I think is a massive violation of the First Amendment. Second, in the same way that she cites these posts about OF, she also cites Tectone talking about illegal aliens as a threat towards her, saying,
why would Tectone talking about illegal aliens be any kind of threat towards her? If she's half Mexican and here legally, what the fuck does that have to do with her?
Well, I'm half Mexican, so I'm almost a minority, and that means he's victimizing me with these posts.
What the fuck?
If this type of post counts as talking about Pink Chew, then Tectone, as a
every time you use the N-word to insult someone, you're actually insulting me because I'm part Italian.
Social media influencer can't talk about the most pressing issues of the past year because his ex-girlfriend is half Mexican?
Yeah, it's fucking
this is
crazy.
Very stupid. She continues, and I think this is the most ridiculous part, and I think...
Says, how have you seen him do it to multiple people? She answers, Enviosity was one example. He has a lot of, I guess, beef with a lot of people. I can't even count. In his YouTube videos, he names each of his YouTube videos after the person he's going after in that video. Question, and what is your concern with regards to what happens if this protective order is not granted after this hearing today? Answer, he's going to continue, as he's shown before, relentlessly harassing and threatening me to the point where I will probably have to take measure where my life may be in danger. So when he gets in beef with other creators, she's trying to use that as proof that if she doesn't get the protective order, he'll make a video on her. To be fair, if you're falsely accusing him, would that not be grounds for him making a video celebrating him defending himself against false allegations? Like, unfortunately, coached lawyer response and it worked. Question A17, he posts in October of 2021. What does he post? A, proud to be blocked. Women who falsely accuse men are scum and should be in prison. I mean, that's just true. Somebody who falsely accuses a man of, like, sexual assault or rape should absolutely 100% face the same exact repercussions that man would have faced if the allegations were true. Because the more people who lie about this shit, the more it makes it harder for actual victims to come forward, because the default position will start to be, well, I just don't believe this because I've seen so many false accusations before. Battleizer, thank you. Video equals relentless harassment, duly noted. Hermit status, thank you. For the 9-month sub on Kick. Ooh, placenta time. Please enjoy some placenta candy bars after Valentine's Day. Question, are you falsely accusing him of these actions? Answer, absolutely not. Question, okay, did they in fact take place? Answer, yes. Question A19, what did Mr. Robertson say? And this was actually before the protective order was filed on June 18th of 2025. Man.
I think it's where she takes the most advantage of the judge's ignorance of social media. She says that Tectone makes call-out videos on certain influencers. These kinds of videos, by the way, are extremely common on YouTube. I mean, this reads like she's suggesting that YouTube drama should be illegal. She says here that if a protective order isn't granted, then he will continue relentlessly harassing and threatening her to the point where her life will be in danger. This is absolutely ridiculous. Over the past handful of days, Tectone and Miskiff have made like 18 videos on each other. By her logic, you would think that both of them would have been dead 10 times over by now. Keep in mind that between the breakup in July and the time that Pink Chu made her allegations on November 20th, 2024, I can't find a single instance where Pink Chu's name is mentioned by Tectone, and she certainly doesn't provide any mentions outside of his post on November 22nd. And keep the context here in mind. Tectone and Pink Chu break up. Tectone is silent about Pink Chu until she accuses him of assault. Then Tectone makes a post saying, I'm going to sue you if you don't apologize. In this context, he's just defending himself. Like he is being legally punished here for defending himself against allegations that had no corroborating evidence.
I think this is the main reason why Tectone has become so extreme. And whenever you think about it, really calling somebody a rapist is one of like the top 3 things that you can say to somebody that is career destroying, career ending, or damaging.
Right, that's a career ending allegation.
And now people have fun just throwing around the word pedophile too.
And during the court case, Tectone said that he was dropped from his partnership with OTK almost immediately after Pink Chu's allegations.
Wow.
By the way, if you're thinking she must be the innocent party because she filed for the protective order, note that protective orders get abused actually quite a lot. In fact, if you watched my video on Alexa Nicholas, who was falsely accused of leaking sealed court documents by a good friend of Taylor Lorenz, you would know that she mentioned that she had a stalker who was harassing her and her family. That stalker filed a restraining order against her. So yes, these orders can be weaponized.
That's crazy.
And speaking of that, here's the fun part. I think this was all a coordinated effort against Tectone from multiple streamers. Let's move on to another stupid
That wouldn't surprise me, because coordinated efforts between streamers to kind of knock another streamer down a peg, definitely not uncommon.
That Pink Chu makes that you would only think is valid if you didn't understand social media. On page 144, Pink Chu says that Tectone destroyed her streaming career when he made his post on November 22nd. Now,
you heard in that video back on November 21st, 2024, or I'm sorry, November 22nd, 2024, that he said it's war now. Answer, yes. Question, do you recall that? Answer, witness nods head. Question, and what has he done to your life since he made that statement on November 22nd, 2024? Answer, he completely destroyed my streaming career. I barely ever stream. I had to completely switch to another platform for content and to make money. Question, how did he destroy your streaming career? Answer, no one wanted to get near me because he would attack them too. Man. And he had already done that to some people. An example is, her name's Morgan. People didn't want to associate with me or collab with me, so I actually ended up having to fly out to LA a lot to make friends and do collaborations to help my career. There was reference to a text message that you sent him asking him for a blowjob right before your Austin Oaks day. Do you recall that? What the fuck? Answer, yes. Question, all right. Can you explain to the court how that text came to be? That's fucking wild. What the fuck? And also,
spicy cat raid. What the hell is this?
Regardless of whether you're in the right or in the wrong, as soon as any drama comes out, once again, you'll find out real quick who is going to even bother, like, still dealing with you, and who is just gonna either stay silent or actively throw you under the bus. It doesn't matter if you're in the right. It doesn't matter if you're in the wrong. That is just how content creation is. There is like this, if you're in drama, no one should touch you kind of thing. You know? It's very strange, and it causes this air of like, again, if you defend yourself, you're the one causing drama. You should just shut the fuck up and take it and hope it goes away, and if it doesn't, oh well, you deserve it. Asking him, yeah, she was asking him to give him a blowjob. That's strange. That's after her stay in the mental facility, where she went back to the house to get her things and then told someone she was afraid of him.
Now, personally, I don't know the validity of her claim. She provides no evidence of this outside of saying that's what happened.
Of course.
And she could have just as easily nuked her own Twitch channel to hide evidence that Tectone wasn't actually abusive, since they did a lot of streams together. But nonetheless, she's suggesting that her online career was over and her life was ruined, which is stupid because...
See, once again, this goes back to, like, them saying, oh, she didn't have receipts because she was autistic. If she was really autistic and anxious, she would be having an auto-archiver archiving every single stream of him to gather any kind of evidence that could be him talking about her. She would have some crazy fucking ironclad receipts, man.
Her primary income is Fansly and OnlyFans. It's stupid because hating on OnlyFans creators only makes them more popular. Everyone who is good at social media knows that. That's why OF chicks go on podcasts like Whatever or Fresh and Fit and say dumb stuff. It's to promote their content.
When you got kicked off of Fresh and Fit the first time,
Spicy
how much money did you make, girl, afterwards? Like, how many...
Fresh and Fit, there's no one that does more for OnlyFans women than Fresh and Fit. You have helped sex workers more than anybody, I think, in the world. You have given us the world. Every time I come on your show, my money goes way up. And then he kicked me off, and then he invited me back on. So
the only bad press that you can get.
I mean, this is why we also get those subversive articles where it shows off like, oh, this OnlyFans woman does content with her mother. Oh, this OnlyFans woman is in a polygamous relationship. Oh, this OnlyFans woman made $1 million in 1 month after fucking 500 men. You know, like, that's why we have those articles, to make it look like they're living really rich and glamorous lifestyles. You should also get into doing this. You should also visit their OnlyFans, right? Like, it's fucking wild, bro.
OnlyFans is being unattractive. People don't care about the morality of a porn star. It's actually kind of a problem because you can inadvertently make the thing more popular by criticizing it. So Pink Chew suggesting that her life was over after a single tweet from Tectone, where, keep in mind, he was defending himself against allegations with no corroborating evidence. It's his right to do that. So Pink Chew suggesting that her life was over after that tweet couldn't be further from the truth. She's now more popular than ever and has more social media followers than Tectone between Instagram and TikTok. In fact, don't take my word for it. Take it from Mujin, who said on Twitter, "Let it be known that from this point onward, anyone still caught defending Tectone is purposefully ignoring facts for what is most likely a desperate and pathetic attempt at gaining favor or clout." I mean, maybe, though I'm not sure what facts he was talking about. Note that he said this before the transcript was made available, so real smart of him to not wait until the evidence was public.
True.
However, you can see that he is very much on Pink Chew's side, and more importantly, you can see him stating here that she makes significantly more money than Tectone. Weird, because a statement like that makes her look like she's the one who actually has more power, and thus makes her look like the aggressor. But here's the part where things get interesting. Again, you would have to understand social media to recognize this stuff. On this page, page 144, Pink Chew mentions a girl named Morgan, and then she says that she went to Los Angeles to do collabs. I think it was a mistake to say this, because Morgan is almost certainly Morg Pie, a person who Pink Chew has done numerous collabs with.
Not me. That's funny, because I picked that card in a different group, and it was me. But I'm gonna pick one.
Again, she's done a number of collabs with Morg Pie, like this one here at the gym. God, she must edit her photos a lot. I'm not even looking at the same person when she's on video and in a place where she can't cake on makeup.
I feel like you don't really need to talk about her looks to neg on her while we're going through court documents. I don't really like that part.
Anyway, there's tons of video evidence of them interacting with each other, and tons of tweets and stuff, so this person, Morgan, is almost certainly Morg Pie. Why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because one of the things that Morg Pie is famous for is helping signal boost false allegations against the YouTubers who run a channel called Super Mega. Turkey Tom made a huge video on it.
Super Mega is a comedy gaming channel with almost 1 million subscribers, run by Matt Watson and Ryan McGee. Over the past 2 years, the channel has found itself mired in endless controversy. However, none would prove as devastating as those levied in July of 2023. That month, a cosplayer named Lex accused Super Mega's channel artist, Dawn, of SA. Matt and Ryan were named for mishandling the situation. This sparked enough backlash for a whole new wave of accusations to surface from former friends and employees. Lex's outright lies in her own video poisoned the well, and if her initial story about Dom was true, it is severely discredited by the various falsehoods she spread. These falsehoods were supported by her boyfriend, Ethan is online, their friend, Nick is not green, their other friend, Leighton Stollard, Morg Pie, and even Rav. All of these people spread provable lies to smear Super Mega as a brand.
Super Mega was a popular variety channel that had a podcast, and this was quite the Turkey Tom video. It's kind of like an epic set of false allegations. But where Morgue Pie plays a role is that she had a crush on one of the owners named Matt. Matt didn't want to pursue a relationship, but they hooked up twice, and then I think Matt chose a different girl over her.
Honestly, I cried for months over that guy. I was like, give me one of your shirts, you know what I mean? So I posted a picture of me wearing the shirt I took of his onto my
That's kind of crazy that, like, dude doesn't want to date you and you're like, it is now my life's mission to ruin your entire life. Like, rejection feels bad, bro, but like, what the fuck? Sargon made a point about that years ago, saying if you're attacking someone's character, you come off as cheap and shallow when you attack their look. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, like, I get some people want to get some, like, you know, low-hanging fruit licks in on other creators, but like, it's, I don't know, it just feels silly to me when we're going through court docs. You don't gotta do shit like that, you know?
Personal Twitter, not like my big one, but my other one. And he texted me after ghosting me, after I asked him if he wanted to hang out again that night. He didn't respond to me asking if he wanted to hang out again. He responded with a screenshot of the post and was like, hey, can you take this down? Like, people have seen me in that shirt, like they know that shirt. Can you just take down this post?
Did you hear the part where she said she made the post on a second account? Kind of like similar to what Pink Chew did. What an odd coincidence.
And also it's like, and maybe it's because in VTuber spheres it's kind of like an unspoken rule, right? You just kind of don't post pictures when you do stuff in real life with VTubers. But I would kind of extend that to regular content creators, right? Like, I would not want to hang out with like a Flesh streamer and then post a picture of them without asking them about it first, right? That just makes sense, because they're such a public figure. You don't want to post something that might, like, they didn't want people to know they were at a certain event, or they didn't want people to know, like, more about their personal life. Like, they don't post a lot of that stuff, right? It just makes sense to me. That's like a common courtesy you should afford people that you're hanging out with in person.
To quickly sum things up, Morgue Pie became friends with a disgruntled ex-Super Mega employee named Leighton, whose goal was to do whatever he could to ruin their career.
Oh, jeez.
Morgue Pie's purpose was to basically signal boost and give validity to all of the provably false things that Leighton was saying about Super Mega. During this time, she also doxes the ex-girlfriend and current girlfriend of one of the owners, and it seems like the doxing was intentional to get back at him for picking another girl over her.
Ooh.
Again, these are very familiar circumstances.
So I was just talking about personal details being unnecessarily mentioned and weaponized to make me look worse. And unfortunately, more people have jumped on that bandwagon. One of those people being Morgan, aka Morgue Pie. Morgan not only brought my current girlfriend into the situation on stream without her consent, she also name-dropped my girlfriend and revealed that we were in a relationship, which was not public information. I'm very private about-
That's kind of fucked. Because, like, a lot of times people aren't exactly hiding a significant other to hide the fact they're in a relationship. It's to, like, protect them as well. And, like, even if they make an offhanded comment about, like, oh yeah, you know, my girlfriend, but they never actually release a name, it's like they know that their significant other is gonna get harassed, you know?
About my relationships, so this was a big blow. Morgan also brought my ex-girlfriend into the picture without her consent.
Weird.
And has strongly hurt her because of this.
Very weird.
She lied about conversations with my ex-girlfriend. She wrongly stated that I had been having a multiple-month affair with my current girlfriend while I was dating my ex-girlfriend. She also lied about not knowing who my current girlfriend was because she did know who that was, and she used it as a segue to name drop her. She also falsely claimed that I was cheating on my current girlfriend, which is not true.
Which
they
is
are
crazy.
both being harassed viciously, and their personal lives are being used as weapons to make me look worse, and I think that's completely unacceptable.
And by the way, even though the allegations were false, they still succeeded. Super Mega took a huge hit, and it really hasn't been the same since, even after Super Mega was exonerated in the eyes of the public. So if you're wondering why people do these tactics and coordinate these ops on Discord and stuff, it's because they work.
It's because they work and there's lasting damage. Even if you disprove the allegations, as you guys can see with all the people trying to call me like a Nazi and a white supremacist, like, the amount of times you have to correct people is insane, and they still keep lying about it.
Where am I going with all this? Well, Pink Chew's official story is that she thought her relationship with Tectone was all consensual until after the breakup and after she confided in a friend who told her that actually she was being abused. And yes, this sounds very much like I consented to sex and then changed my mind later. It's like 2015 college feminist behavior. Anyway, my personal opinion is that the friend who Pink Chew talked to was Morgue Pie, which is why her name randomly slips in the transcript. And I think the actual reason that Pink Chew is doing all of this is because she's mad that Tectone broke up with her, and she's mad that he is with someone else after she clearly was still into him when the relationship ended, based on texts that were shown.
It's the same gym, Mizkif's gym. Does Mizkif still own the Ironforge gym? On January 17th, 2024, Miskiff announced the opening of Ironforge Gym located in Austin, Texas, co-owned by himself and Norwegian Twitch streamer Knut. Very interesting. It's all coming together.
In courts. And what I mean is that on page 113, after the breakup, before she goes into the mental hospital, she's talking about how much she loves him and says, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm going to get a full psych evaluation and get some real help." So I've read...
What the fuck? Question. Before you went into Austin Oaks, you sent John a series of text messages and you guys had a text conversation about your decision to go into Austin Oaks. Is that correct? She answered yes. Question. And that's what we see on the screen behind us. Is that fair? And she answered yes. Our discussion, yes. Question. And you said, "I really need a friend right now. I think I need to go to the mental hospital. My mom doesn't answer. I don't know if the medicine, I'm having a hard time. I need to see my doctor. Sorry, a doctor. Figuring it out right now, packing my bags, heading to my mom's. I hope you see this, but I'm going to do the right thing and get a full psych evaluation and get some real help. I love you so much. I'm sorry if I ever hurt you, and I can't wait to come back feeling better. I love you." Is that what you wrote? And she said yes. And he asked, "And did John direct you to write any of that?" And she said, "No, not that." Question. Okay, just the other part about the oral sex that evening. And she said yes. What the fuck? What the fuck? Why would she say this before going into psych eval? Never mention any kind of abuse by Tectone during her mental hospital stay. Get out. Want to give him a blowjob as she asks via text message. And then go to the house, talk to someone else, claim that she told them she was afraid of him. Like this... The math is not mathing, brother man, reading the transcript.
Certain parts of this transcript a lot of times, particularly this part, and here it sounds like the actual story is that she was having regular psychological breakdowns. He got tired of putting up with it, so her going to the mental hospital was like, "No, wait, I swear I'll change." I would also guess that she was threatening self-harm if he broke up with her, which is why she's saying, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you," which again makes her look like the abuser because threatening self-harm is emotional blackmail.
True.
Honestly, this visit to the mental hospital looks like some sort of bargain to get him back after the breakup, and I think the actual reason that Pink Chew acted out on social media is because she's pissed off that Tectone moved on to somebody else. Based on the information that I've shown, I don't think this is that much of a stretch. Now, pay attention to who Pink Chew's friend Morg Pie is friends with. Would it shock you if I said that Hassan Piker is a friend of hers? I don't know how every bad thing on social media always relates back to this social circle, but it seems to be the case.
That is kind of funny.
Why is that important? Well, Hassan Piker has this ongoing war with Asmongold, probably because he's mad that Asmon is more famous than him. Hassan likes to sit back and have his little lackeys do all the dirty work for him. This is a famous tactic of his, and he primarily works by not directly saying that he has certain values, but he will signal boost all the people who have the values that he wants to promote by watching their content on his stream. That being said, Tectone is friends with Asmongold. Hassan wants to attack Asmongold in any way that he can, so I think his lackeys came up with a plot to destroy Tectone. They do this a lot. Recently, Girl Hassan and promoter of incest, aka Denims, randomly attacked Emiru for being friends with Asmongold and for not talking about her politics, which was stupid and pointless.
Racist chud. Emma is friends with Asmongold, Lakari, Tectone, plus she thinks Ethan Klein's lawsuits are justified.
Asmongold's a bad person. Tectone is a bad person.
But going back to Tectone, seeing
this
that
is kind of like what I mentioned the other day. I don't know if this is what's going on, right? Because obviously this is speculation. But it's like, yeah. It would not surprise me that people who wish to harm Asmongold are going after people that are more easily harmed than Asmongold is, because that will serve to have people isolate themselves from Asmongold so they don't have to deal with the quote-unquote drama. This is a typical tactic used to isolate someone from any pillars of support that they might have. And it's a really sad tactic, in my opinion, but it's also very effective, especially if you're doing it to a bunch of public figures who want to be self-preservation instinctualized. And they're just like, well, you're in drama, I can't be any part of that, so I'm just gonna, like, say some shit and distance myself.
Pi has already been involved in conspiracy behavior against Super Mega. I don't think it's that unreasonable to say that this tactic is being repeated a lot. Ethan Klein being yet another example of a person who Hassan's social circle has conspired against. So basically, the lackeys create the noise, and then Hassan does stuff like signal boost false information about Tectone.
I don't think I will ever forget Ethan Klein being sent skulls through the mail. I feel like that is, like, there's been a lot of shit that has happened to content creators, but that is, like, really fucking scary.
That was said by Miskiff.
Apparently Miskiff sent, like, a court reporter to the court to take notes in this process. Then he brought Hasanabi saying, like how when he shocked his dog.
I still think it's really weird that Mizkif sent someone to sit in on this case so he could have them write notes and then put out a narrative before like anyone involved in the case had time to do anything. I still think that's really fucking weird.
So apparently he did a right-wing pivot and he thought that but Hasanabi bad would work in a court of law. This is why I always say nobody grifts to the left.
Sorry, that last line.
I mean, you don't need to grift to the left because the left is the overall mainstream opinion. And it's not really grifting to the right because if you're actually not believing in what you're saying, it comes out eventually. Everybody eventually gets caught on the grift, man. And you have so many hurdles put in front of you for believing anything like center or right of center that like if you don't actually believe in this shit, like sure, you might experience a short burst of success in the beginning while you're slinging slurs and making yourself untouchable by anyone that would want to work with you. But long term, that's not going to work out. It's not like you have to work hard and work against so many people that want to be the reason that you fail.
It wasn't super relevant, but it was so stupid that I had to include it. If you read the court transcript, it was actually Pink Chu's lawyer who brings up that Hassan abuses animals, not Tectone. And
so once again, the person who was writing down the court stuff, it was to paint a narrative, was it not? And this transcript says, answers, this is from Tectone this time. Yeah, for some reason, the internet believes that if you judge someone based on their skin color, it's bad unless you're white. And then it's okay. So I've talked about that briefly on the internet, maybe a little bit more than briefly at this point. And then Pink Chu's lawyer asks, and you refer to Hassan, who is another streamer, as a terrorist supporter and a dog abuser, correct? And Tectone says, yeah, he electrocuted his dog on stream, and he says Hezbollah was doing a good thing. I don't think supporting terrorism is a good thing, nor is abusing your animals. Pink Chu's lawyer asks, white privilege is propaganda the real racists have been using to be racist towards whites for things they never did for decades. You posted that on October 27th of 2025, is that right? And Tectone says, that sounds like something I posted. Pink Chu's lawyer says, okay, but the death threats are originated because of my client's post where she didn't name you in November of 2024, is that right? And Tectone says, yeah, you can check the timestamps on the threats if you like. Yeah, that's a little crazy, because didn't the other thing happen way earlier? Like, I don't know why her lawyer is bringing up the Hassan dog shocking thing that, like, literally just happened. And also, something from October 2025? That's a bit confusing. What does internet posting about unrelated topics have to do with what he's accused of? The lawyer's trying to paint it as Tectone didn't receive any kind of threats from Pink Chu vaguely accusing him of things. He was receiving death threats because of the other kind of stuff that he posts. And that's why he said, yeah, you can check the timestamps, actually.
The reason it was brought up was because of a retarded counter-argument that Pink Chu's lawyer made about the allegations against Tectone having no effect on how much hate he gets, because he brings up things like Hassan shocking his dog. It was so
she says, okay, how about your stance on trans children? Has that gotten you death threats? And Tectone says, of course. And Pink Chu's lawyer asks, okay, so that didn't come from my client, correct? Tectone said, correct, but those are far after this whole ordeal happened. The lawyer asks, okay, but upon questioning from your lawyer, you blamed my client for these death threats. Tectone said, yeah, well, for the ones in regards to me being a rapist, of course, why wouldn't I? Yeah, I don't think any of the things about him being a rapist would come from him talking about Hassan shocking his fucking dog. And once again, those are recent events. These happened way after anything from, like, Pink Chu saying stuff. The people calling him a rapist aren't gonna do that after, like, just random fucking unrelated white privilege things. Maybe the dad situation, but I don't know when, like, his dad started being outed for, like, oh, his dad had an allegation years ago. That could be the only other thing I could think about. What even are these questions? And, let's see. The lawyer said, okay. And Tectone said, I don't think people like rapists too much. Hot take. Rapists are hated. Her lawyer asks, okay, and I think just kind of to wrap things up, you originally talked about being authentic with your audience, and you, unfortunately, have had a sexual assault experience yourself, and I'm sorry for that. Tectone said, thank you. The lawyer asked, and it's okay for you to talk about that experience with your public, is that right? Tectone said, of course. And the lawyer asked, so then why is it okay for you to talk about your experience, but my client not talk about her experiences when she doesn't name you? Because she framed it in a way that people would think that it's him, and obviously they did. Obviously this was setting the framework for her bringing these court cases. Why she dropped the criminal case can probably only be assumed. She basically named him because she lied. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Such a stupid part of the transcript because Pink Shoe's lawyer is arguing that Pink's pretty direct allegations against Tectone on Twitter of one of the most horrific crimes didn't really have an effect on how many threats he gets, because nobody could figure out that she was talking about him, despite numerous people in the comments saying that it was Tectone.
Help her expose Tectone for SA, her treating her like garbage. Tectone just exposes him wholly. Are you scared of OTK lawyers? Asmongold and Miskiff abuses Emiru, extra Emily. But you defended the scumbag with his ex-wife? That's a great question. Fuck Dictone. Is SA a requirement for OTK? OTK Network, OTK Games Expo, OTK Alerts, ain't this yo guy? Tectone's a piece of shit. The fact that he still has a platform is beyond me. Hope OTK finally listens to your story and takes action. You know? A woman can't even name the abuser because of legal matters, but his name is John Robertson, aka Tectone. She keeps coming on here and asking for help, even trying to get in contact with OTK, and nothing. Please support her by naming the abuser. Jesus Christ. And it looks like the YouTuber added some text here. Not even all the tweets from people who clearly know it's Tectone. These are just the ones directly referencing him under the main tweet. There are numerous less direct ones who very much look like they know who she's talking about, meaning likely most of the replies knew it was Tectone she was referencing.
But when Tectone says any random thing about OnlyFans, even when he's showing that he's referencing a different person, it's an immediate threat to Pink Shoe's life. So again, I think there's a bigger thing going on here where a bunch of people are collaborating with Pink Shoe to try to destroy Tectone, Morgpie being one of them. By the way, these people are often stupid, so they leave tons of evidence lying around. Here's Miskiff going on a huge tirade during his Tectone video, where he's basically blowing Hassan and the rest of the LA streamer scene.
You attacked Hassan for months, years now, shitting on Hassan, farming so much hate on the guy, acting like he's a problem. You're farming hate on Hassan Piker all fucking day, Frogan, people that are doing shit.
Is this like Miskiff's career fucking pivot here? Where it's like everything is so over, so now if I glaze Hassan, I'll be able to get into that circle. We're gonna see another like iDub situation.
You attacked Pokimane, Cutie Cinderella.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that these people are talking, especially considering they live in the same area. I mean, Miskiff flat out admits to talking to Pink Shoe, but you know, not out of concern for her well-being, but to point out that she didn't think it was weird when he shook her hand for too long that one time.
Then me and his ex-girlfriend started to talk, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I never ever said that in my fucking life. Why the fuck would I care about that? Like, I did not shake her hand a long time.
You can watch Miskiff for about 60 seconds and easily see that this guy only cares about himself. Personally, I think all of this drama farming for him is just to make people not pay attention to his ex-girlfriend Emiru's allegations, saying that he was pretty abusive.
After like all of that Rust stuff happened was when the other domestic abuse stuff really started. He would destroy furniture in front of me. He would throw things in front of me and near me. Destroy walls. Again, you can go see this in some of his VODs in his bedroom. The holes in the wall. There would be times where he was upset at me and I would go to my stream room and literally lock myself in to get away from him, and he would be banging on the door and screaming at me. At the time, he also would more often do things like if we were driving in the car together, he would be going like 150 miles an hour, and like one time he even said like, well, now we're both gonna die.
What the fuck?
Like threatening to kill both of us.
Interesting story. So we have Miskiff talking to Pink Shoe.
I know I watched some of like Emiru talking about this, like back when she first started talking about it. I don't remember the fucking 150 miles in the car thing. That's fucking crazy.
Of course he was talking to Pink Shoe because he couldn't have known about the court date and where to send his court reporter to take a bunch of factually inaccurate notes. In fact, this idiot friend of Miskiff's who goes by Axion publicly admits to being invited to the court by Pink Shoe.
What?
He knows me. I think he tried to get me kicked out or something. I can only assume. That's not for sure, because the bailiff came over and asked me, are you here for her? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. Did Pink know? I said, yeah, she signed me up to be there.
What an idiot.
So this is all coordinated with Pink Chew to give this information to Ms. Kiv to start building a narrative about what happened in this court case to try and make everyone turn against Tectone immediately. That's kind of interesting. Damn, imagine that. Streamers not having any kind of soul.
To have admitted that. So now we know that Ms. Kiv and
all
Axion's
chaos.
involvement was directly approved by Pink Chew, which is interesting because it seems to be the case that Ms. Kiv has gone on a full-on disinformation campaign against Tectone, where he spreads numerous lies that are easy to disprove if you just look at the court transcript. So now I believe this chick even less. If she was being honest, then she wouldn't have to side with people who constantly make statements of fact that are easy to verify as false. Here's another stupid one that Ms. Kiv said.
And has to pay all of her attorney fees, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a small price.
Ms. Kiv, if this is how factually accurate you are in reporting the story, then you should go work for CNN. The fees were around $15,000. It's said out loud in the courtroom, so his friend would have heard it. And you think a guy like Ms. Kiv, who has his own allegations of abuse and is saying they aren't true, would be more careful to accurately report information, especially considering that this stuff is so easy to look up. Anyway, Ms. Kiv also graciously...
I mean, it's probably the whole, like, if they can get in and just, like, solidify Tectone's reputation as, oh, he got this protective order against him, that means he's definitely a rapist. It makes it so most other people aren't gonna want to come out and defend him, right? Because who wants to be the person coming out and being like, yeah, I don't think this guy got anything wrong here. It looks like he got railroaded. Because now they're going to be painted as a rapist defender. And lo and behold, me watching those Tectone videos on stream before, a bunch of people were just like, why is Kirsche defending the rapist? Yeah, it's also predictable, man.
Leaked his own DMs, showing that he was talking to Mike from PA, another Hassan orbiter, who went on to repeat other bombastic things about Tectone.
So there you have it, chat. Tectone is a rapist. He is a stalker. He's a danger to the community, and he should absolutely 100% be permanently banned from Twitch. And could someone explain to me why he's not been permanently banned from Twitch?
That is real crazy coming from a guy who was trying to get one of his viewers to assassinate a YouTuber he didn't like.
What?
Or was him simping over the $5 a month girl the more egregious offense? And last, as far as I've been able to find, I think Denims is a part of this as well, because she was openly saying that it was Tectone being accused of sexual assault before that was public. So personally, in my opinion, I think this whole situation was not because Pink Chew was afraid of Tectone. I think it was a coordinated effort by people who hate Tectone to try to ruin his career. I mean, also, she has no proof that he's abusive outside of her saying he is. And let me elaborate on what I'm talking about. When Emiru accused Ms. Kiv of being abusive, she brought receipts. She had Discord messages and then like a million schizo texts that he sent her after the breakup.
Yep.
Now I'm more likely to believe what she says because she can show documented behavior that supports her
You always come with receipts. Always fucking have receipts, bro.
accusations. As for Tectone, the only time he mentions Pink Chew is after she accuses him of abuse, and what's really going on here is that she made an allegation with no corroborating evidence. Tectone says that's not true, and now he's getting legally punished for it. It's actually disturbing how often these types of situations happen. I mentioned recently that Turkey Tom was falsely accused by an ex-girlfriend of his in a situation that is strikingly similar to Tectone's, where 4 days after the breakup, she goes on to Kiwi Farms to accuse him of physical abuse, filming without consent, and engaging in weird fetishes.
Recently, I've been accused by an ex-girlfriend, along with an ex-partner, of non-consensually filming sexual encounters, being so rough and inconsiderate during sexual encounters that it bordered on assault, encouraging eating disorders, being into age play, along with a litany of other completely baseless, false accusations.
I've never seen the Turkey
reality
Thomas
was
before.
that his ex-girlfriend, Rowan, was actively consenting to everything, including being filmed. She had a bunch of creepy fetishes, and she was trying to push Tom into behavior that he didn't want to engage with.
He never asked me. He would just pull out his phone and record. I wouldn't notice until maybe 30 seconds in a minute. Or
See, and this is like what pisses me off, right? Oh god, this is Josh's chat. I hope there's not any fucking slurs right now. But like, this is what pisses me off. If you are into like any kind of like BDSM or BDSM adjacent stuff, and you want your guy to participate in it with you, and you convince him like, I want this, I need this, I know it's not something that you usually do, but I want you to feel comfortable, I want you to feel safe doing this stuff with me because it's something I want. If you go through all those steps to actually get him to do something he wasn't interested in, and then you use it against him, you are just resoundingly demonic. Like, you are a piece of shit. And may good things not happen to you. That's fucking crazy. There's like, holy shit, my guy. Why are people like this? Why are women?
A minute into it.
Now, I obviously can't and would never show these videos to anyone, but in them, it's undeniable that she is staring directly into the camera from the moment the video starts. Because the reality is that every single time we recorded, I had explicit permission. Rowan texts me saying, quote, "Rape thing is so hot.
Hope you make it back safe." Turkey Thomas said, "I did. It was a nice drive, actually." She says, "Yay. Rape thing is so hot. I never did that before. You should tie me up next time. He. Demon emoji." And his response, "Consensual sex is good." And she said, "You know what I meant by that. I don't know what to call it." And he said, "Yeah, I get it." Yeah, he, as a public figure, that's the correct thing to respond to that. Holy shit.
My response to this is consensual sex is good.
It's funny because Tom sends texts like the FBI is watching. I just want to make sure that we've established that this is all consensual, okay? Somebody knew this was coming.
In the interview, it stated that our breakup took place in December, and that after that, she realized how bad it was, and she felt the need to contact Katie, who we're going to get into later.
Gee, where have I heard that one before? If you watch Tom's video on the false allegations against him, it's an incredibly similar story to Tectone's, except I think Tom is a little bit more conscientious about this stuff, and so he made sure to have evidence of his ex openly saying that she would blackmail him if they didn't get back together.
Immediately after I told Rowan that I wanted to break up with her, she began threatening to post about me online.
"I'm gonna make it hard for you to ever be in a relationship."
Okay, Rowan, I just want to move on and have my life, and you'll move on and have your life. And we can be in our own corners. We don't have to do damage to each other.
Like, do you think we'll ever be able to see each other?
After the way these conversations have gone today, I really don't think so.
Why?
Because you're, like, threatening to blackmail me.
Yeah. I'm not. Well, if you don't come see me, then I will.
You know what's great about...
Why? What? How? Can someone explain to me why, like, every single male content creator, asterisk, except for a couple, why do they always get in relationships with, like, the most insane, like, bipolar disorder women? Like, actually fucking crazy to me. This is woman brain maxing. This is wild to listen to. Like, holy shit. The chance that they could get popular off of ruining this guy, I guess, is too much of a draw. What the fuck?
All this, despite that Tom has her recorded saying that she will blackmail him, there really isn't much remedy you can get against someone for false allegations unless you sue them for defamation, which is expensive and hard to prove,
and very costly.
It's why people feel safe in falsely accusing somebody. And then asshats like Hassan will boost the false allegations without critical thought or saying, "Where's the evidence?"
By the way, one of your OG slop tuber ops, Turkey Tom, also caught a sexual assault allegation where he physically abused 2 of his exes. This didn't even reach your radar because he's laying low. No, it didn't reach my radar because I have so many fucking ops that have done like sexual assault that I don't even know who the fuck this one is. But that's crazy.
There he is, just agreeing with and validating the allegation with no pushback, despite knowing nothing about it. Luckily, Tom.
So that's why when people come in my chat and they say some shit, I'm like, I don't know anything about that. You got some proofs? You got like a link? You got something? You got something to verify that? A wild, though, no evidence behind it, but it could be more likely that women act like this when their boyfriend has some level of fame. I feel like anyone, regardless of your gender, needs to be very careful with whomst you associate with when you have any level of fame. Because I think we see it a lot more with famous men and women trying to, like, do damage to them. But it definitely happens in the opposite direction. There are definitely duplicitous dudes who want to cut down women as well. I am a crazy woman attracted to a streamer. Yeah, but I'm also a streamer. And I also feel like I'm not the malicious kind of crazy. I'll defend myself if I get attacked, but I don't want to fucking deal fucking damage to people without reason, you know?
Exact way to humiliate his ex for blackmailing him and how to prove his innocence. But for average people, this can be life-destroying, and there's not really much you can do about it. Anyway, let's go to the court decision. Like everyone else, I already knew the results before I read this transcript, and I was still shocked to see this. Based on the testimony and the evidence that's been provided to the court does find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of sexual assault. The court makes the additional finding that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant is the victim of stalking and will grant a 10-year protective order.
So I don't even know where the stalking came into this, right? Because as we've seen throughout this entire video, Pink Chew made a statement on Twitter. Tectone was like, I didn't do any of that. And then she's like, anytime he talks about OnlyFans whores, clearly he's talking about me. So where is the stalking? Where is that happened? This is taking some liberties, man.
The court means the judge, by the way. The judge made this decision, just to make it clear that this was not a trial by jury. Some additional things, Tectone has to pay $15,000 in lawyer fees to Pink Chew. He can't go anywhere near her. Who cares about that? He obviously doesn't want to go near her. He has lost his right to own a firearm for 10 years, which is nuts considering she didn't really have any evidence that Tectone was dangerous. And he's not allowed to talk about her, which again is also ridiculous. Not because
I think if you are a genuine victim and you need an order like this to prevent someone from attacking you, it would make sense. It would make sense to not allow that person to have firearms, right? Like, bear with me here. But when people can take advantage of the system and they can lie and obfuscate things and try to get a biased judge that has had to recuse themselves on previous cases, and you're just taking away someone's Second Amendment right when they're not a danger, just because you want to fuck them over, that is incredibly egregious. And if our system is able to be abused to this degree, it needs to be heavily revised.
Because he can't say the name Pink Chew for 10 years, but because of the criteria they consider to be a conversation about Pink Chew, as in, if Tectone ever talks about OnlyFans in a negative light, is he liable for criminal charges?
I'm glad this guy brought up the same thing I just said, because like, what the fuck are we doing here? Can she say he's talking about me whenever he makes any kind of references to whores? Like, what is this?
Insane. Knowing nothing going in, I don't think any reasonable person would have agreed with the judge here.
True.
So I started researching on who this person is. Judge Dimple Malhotra. If you go to her website, it basically describes her as an activist who started out by working in San Francisco, California. Remember how I said that Austin...
Isn't that a conflict of interest if you are a judge presiding on a domestic violence case, right? Because this would be a domestic violence restraining order case, would it not? If she's accusing him of being abusive and sexual assault. And you're a judge that's an activist for domestic violence work. I feel like that's a bit of a conflict of interest.
Is the California of Texas. Also this.
It is so incredibly important that we celebrate and embrace diversity. And I think it's just so important for, even for this courtroom, when people walk into this courtroom and they're from different ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, to be able to walk in and see someone who looks like me, I think provides a certain level of comfort to them.
An immigrant who grew up in the
What the fuck? First of all, what the fuck? Second of all, as a white man, Tectone had no fucking chance against this woman. Holy shit. He could have brought in receipts of him saving millions of kittens and she still would have been, get fucked, white man. Good fucking God.
U.S. with a family environment deeply rooted in Indian culture. Judge Dimple Malhotra is the first and only person of South Asian descent elected to a judicial seat in Travis County history. Oh, great. So she's one of those people where we have to focus on their race instead of their qualifications.
Yep.
You know, oftentimes I think, especially for me, being an immigrant, being a woman of color.
Basically, I'm saying the judge is woke. Now, there were a bunch of arguments made by Pink Chew's lawyer that didn't really make sense to me. I mean the ones where she brings up Tectone talking about anti-white racism.
Now that makes sense. The lawyer brought them up. And I even said this earlier. I was like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything in the case? And it was like, maybe they're trying to like point out, you know, oh, she's the half Mexican poor soul, and he has all of these deranged opinions that will get him attacked by normal people. It was actually just to influence the judge to be against him because she's a fucking woke activist. That's very interesting.
What does that have to do with this case? What does it have to do with Pink Chew? Why did Pink Chew bring up that she's half Mexican? Why are they making arguments that are irrelevant and would clearly make a judge who ran as a Democrat think that Tectone is a racist? Keep in mind that this court case is occurring on January 23rd of 2026, which is during a bunch of anti-ICE riots and after Renee Good died. These are very politically polarized things to bring up that I think aren't relevant to Tectone's case.
They aren't.
I'm guessing that maybe Pink Chew's lawyer did some research on the judge, and maybe this is why Judge Malhotra...
Suddenly Techie's comment about how he failed the vibe check makes 1,000,000% more sense. This woman should not be a judge in any court whatsoever. That's a very good point. There were a lot of people making fun of Tectone for saying he failed the vibe check, But if he had a DEI activist judge who was very like, white privilege is real and we need more diversity, and then the lawyer for Pink Chew tries painting Tectone as some sort of like crazy white supremacist guy, that judge immediately was like, this guy doesn't pass the vibe. He's not one of us. He's already guilty. This judge needs to be investigated immediately. She needs to be disbarred, and all her cases need to be investigated again. Her cases definitely need a fucking recheck, man. The vibe check BS sounds about right, yeah.
Didn't notice
you,
things like
Internet
Pink
Zen
Chew's
Master.
lawyer victim-blaming Tectone for his abuse as a child in her opening statement.
What? You're going to hear Judge that he would demean her by having her write slut and come here on her face before he made her perform oral sex. What you're also going to hear about this case, Your Honor, is that they had never actually engaged in traditional intercourse. It was only ever he received blowjobs, and there was never any reciprocation onto my client. Like, I would have broken up with him, right? I would have been like, if I'm giving you blowjobs and you're not eating me out, we're not on an equal playing field here, okay? In addition, there was never any real kissing. He would want to spit in her mouth, but she refused. And so you're going to hear a lot about, and I think what you will hear, Judge, is that my client, and the evidence will show that my client had been raped before, a pretty ugly rape in her early 20s, and knew what that was. Didn't understand until she got out of this relationship how bad it was. And then what you will see, Judge, is that he used his platform from the time.
Something that was immediately noticeable to me. I mean, this...
he had an asterisk. When he was in 3rd grade, Tectone's sister tried to infect him with parasites and crabs. I think it's abusive and bullying behavior to blame him for this, particularly when it's the first argument that Michelle Locke makes when she starts the cross-exam. No wonder she's divorced. That's a little grotesque, but I mean, I guess since he has white privilege, it is his fault that he got raped. That doesn't matter, according to these people.
Statement right here very much makes it seem like Pink Chew was trying to use shame to force Tectone into sex acts that he was uncomfortable with because of his childhood trauma.
What? Pink Chew's lawyer asked, is that fair? Tectone says yes. The lawyer asked, did you defend your innocence? Tectone says, of course. Her lawyer asked, and did you absolutely make statements online that the truth would come out? Tectone said, absolutely, of course. Lawyer asks, okay, did you ever threaten Pink with any kind of physical violence? Tectone says, no, of course not. Mr. Poirier said, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor. Oh. So these questions above are from Mr. Poirier. So those are from his lawyer, I suppose. And then the court, Miss Locke. So Miss Locke down here asking questions. Sorry for that confusion at first. I only had the Miss Locke picture, so I thought it was all her. So these are from Pink Chew's lawyer. The ones above we just read are from Tectone's lawyer. Pink Chew's lawyer says, Mr. Robertson, did you ever engage in vaginal intercourse with my client? Tectone says, no, ma'am. The lawyer asks, okay, and did you perform any oral sex on my client? Tectone says, no, ma'am. She asks, okay, and in fact, the only one that received any kind of sexual satisfaction was you from her. Is that correct?
Wouldn't it be ironic if that were the case?
Because you spent your career doing domestic violence cases and you have a background, some might think that it would be hard for you to be impartial as the judge.
Yes. Right.
So how do you maintain your impartiality?
As a prosecutor, I took an oath to seek justice, not conviction. And so people have to remember that and that not to say that there aren't prosecutors in the world who are doing the wrong thing. Unfortunately, with every profession, you have people who really shouldn't be in that profession, who are there
like
for the
you.
wrong reason. I took an oath as a judge to be fair and impartial. And that is also incredibly important. People walking into your courtroom deserve your impartiality and to listen to their side of the story.
That was hard to listen to considering her
that's
decision on
beautiful
Tectone's
street.
case. How do you stay impartial? That's easy. The answer is she doesn't. Now, this does seem like a random question to ask, so why was it brought up? Well, the answer to that, I think, is a much bigger issue than the diversity stuff from earlier. The answer, I think, is a massive conflict of interest. I believe she was asked that question because a few years prior to this interview, there was an article written on her about how a lawyer got her taken off his case because of her domestic violence activism. Now, I think that trying to stop domestic violence is great.
Yeah.
However, I also agree with the defense attorney, Steve Brand, who says that her activism makes her biased towards alleged victims, and there's no way he could win a case with her as a judge. He also kind of recommends that every defense lawyer should be filing a motion to remove her from their case. And
absolutely. And this is why I think if Tectone appeals, he has a chance of getting this judge recused and getting a different judge to look at the case with more impartiality.
Personally, after reading the transcript of Tectone's hearing, I agree. And in my armchair internet lawyer opinion with 2020 hindsight, Tectone's lawyer should have gotten Judge Dimple removed and gone with somebody else. I'm curious how many other people like Tectone she's done this to, where the accuser has no corroborating evidence mixed in with strong counter evidence against her story.
A lot of people don't know that there's a huge intersection between gun violence and domestic violence. All the studies that have been done show us that
So not only did they paint Tectone as like, oh, this guy doesn't believe in white privilege, Your Honor, but they're like, well, he owns firearms, and she's, already connecting those dots.
For half of the cases where there have been mass shootings, the mass shooter has had a history of domestic violence.
Did I hear that correctly? Is this why Tectone has to be treated like a felon for something that, after reading the transcript, I don't think he did?
Right.
It looks like she's on some sort of anti-gun crusade, which is why she took his access to firearms away for a decade. For a decade, when he's a streamer, which puts his life in danger. Has she ever heard of the phrase correlation does not equal causation? What evidence do you have that Tectone's going to crash out and become like a mass shooter or something? Is this why Pink Chu's lawyer tried to associate him with white supremacy? Is it also why Pink Chu's lawyer, immorally in my opinion, pretended to be a medical expert on schizophrenia to frame Tectone as an unmedicated psycho who could break any time?
This is a question. Are you aware of the consequences of being an untreated schizophrenic? Tectone said no. Pink Chu's lawyer asked, okay, are you aware that being untreated can lead to worsening psychosis, including hallucinations and delusions? Tectone said, I'm sure a more severe case of schizophrenia could absolutely do that. And she said, well, but tell me this, are you a licensed medical professional? Well, I mean, she, as the YouTuber points out, she is also not a licensed medical professional. So they're trying to paint him as quite a lot worse than he is to an activist judge who is already biased against someone like Tectone.
By the way, Tectone got re-diagnosed and he doesn't have schizophrenia.
I went to a psychiatrist yesterday. Guys, I'm not schizophrenic. The psychiatrist believes the reason why I see things that aren't there, mainly, well, at night, is due to the fact that I got stabbed in my left eye and my right eye is normal.
I asked him about the stabbing on my last stream.
And so they believe that my eyeballs are causing me to temporarily hallucinate things that aren't there because they're not signaling my brain properly. And what they believe that I have is anxiety with bad vision as well as unresolved childhood trauma. And so I was going to actually try to get medicated. They said I do not require medication.
You have to read the transcript to get to the level of fuck these people that I'm at. Basically what's happened here is that to a judge who appears to be in favor of DEI and appears to be anti-gun, Pink Chu's lawyer framed Tectone as a violent, unmedicated, schizophrenic neo-Nazi. Tectone is also bald, so he might as well be seen as a skinhead, too.
Oh,
no wonder this trial
baldlets,
ended the
when
way
will
it
they
did.
learn?
This is so messed up, and I don't just think this is a violation of the First and the Second Amendment, but also a violation of the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. It's also clear to me, in my opinion, based on the evidence that I've shown, that a big part of the reason that Pink Chu filed for this protective order is to avoid a defamation lawsuit. Maybe Tectone's biggest mistake here was being openly arrogant around all this during his live streams.
Very much so.
But it's hard to blame him because
I agree. It's hard to blame him because you don't want people lying about you online when you're a public figure. But if you're going to do any kind of lawfare, less is more, brother man.
Who in the hell would have thought that he would have lost this case based on the evidence in the court transcripts?
Yeah.
And you know what the real messed up thing is? Well, I said it already. Pink Chu most likely will not receive any consequences for this. And Tectone will probably not be able to win an appeal because of how appeals court works.
Really?
The sad truth is that there is very little recourse for victims of false allegations. And if Pink Chu were found to be lying, which, in my opinion, she was, there's basically nothing that you can do outside of suing for defamation, which is incredibly expensive, hard to prove, and Tectone likely would not win a defamation case because the order of protection was granted. Well, if he's even allowed to file a lawsuit like that at this point.
That seems
on top
really
of that,
fucked.
this horrendous court decision will give protection to people such as Hassan Piker, Denims, Mike from PA, and Miskiff when they call Tectone an abuser, and when they repeatedly lie about the facts of the case.
There was also, and this is confirmed, he had recordings of some of the sexual assaults and his victim in sexually compromising positions and was ordered to delete all of them or else he was going to prison that day. The judge said, if you don't delete them right now, I'm going to put you in prison myself.
This is yet another lie. This did
Okay, well, I'm glad that was a lie, because I was gonna say, wouldn't that be deleting evidence that could possibly exonerate him as well? Like, hold on a minute here.
Not happen. All the judge said was to not share explicit content of Pink Chew that was privately filmed.
And it says, the court, I'm also going to order you, and I don't know that you specifically asked for this, Mrs. Locke, but you are not to disseminate or reproduce or share any kind of photographic or electronic or digital media that is a recording of this applicant. And I think you know what I'm talking about. It's been referenced many times during this proceeding. That is completely prohibited. The respondent, which I'm assuming is Tectone, says, yes, ma'am. I just, like, obviously, yeah, if he was spreading fucking any kind of revenge porn, that would still be fucked up, even in this position. I wouldn't want someone I associate with to be doing that. The judge probably fucking would. We need to be able to sue judges. I don't know how an appeal for this works, so it's just like I can only have a naive hope that an appeal would work.
As for Tectone, on his return to live streaming after a long break, he stated that he wants to respect the court's decision and move on.
I lost the civil case. I did. But I do genuinely want to respect the court's decision. I believe, even though I lost the case, I do believe that this still gets me to where I want to go, which is for all parties to simply move on. That's pretty much all I want, is for everybody to go their separate ways, to be able to move on and find solace and peace in their life. Genuinely.
I would not be able to do that. If I had something dealt onto me that said I couldn't own firearms for 10 years and I had to just like take this unfair and very slanted kind of court case, I would not be able to be like, yeah, I'm okay with this. I've been wronged, but I'm okay with it, you know? Like, I mean, maybe there's certain ways he has to phrase things. I don't know. I haven't been in a court case like this, but it's just like, I could not do that.
That's a very kind way to put it. I'd be a lot more mad. I mean, I was furious at the court's decision after doing the research, and this isn't even my life.
Yep.
But in times like this, I think we can look back on the words of wisdom from Keemstar about it being a stupid
sentences never previously spoken
idea to date a chick who does OnlyFans. Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.
I think that was a pretty good fucking dissemination of what was going on. I very much enjoyed that. That was enjoyable to read through and to see the, like, court pieces on screen. Yeah, there's some Tectone twits. So the meta of attempting to shit on anyone who's had previous affiliation with someone who's been discovered or suspected to be problematic is going to cause a ripple effect of no one associating with anyone publicly ever again. Backstab culture is at its paramount. Yeah, it kind of fucking sucks. And Tectone saying, to those reaching out and apologizing, don't. I understand how bad it looked. I get your concerns. Anyways, if we were good before, in my mind, we're good now. I just want to get on with my life, with my loved ones, and my dog. Everything's good. Yeah? Yeah? He's definitely a bit more forgiving than I am. I feel like if somebody who has wronged me gives me, like, a genuine apology, I would probably forgive them, but I would still never trust them, like, forever. I don't think they would be someone who could get back my trust. And it's just like, I get it when you're like, oh, I can't stand up for someone because it might look bad even if I don't think they did anything wrong. But if you want to claim to be someone with principles, I think that you should make at least an earnest attempt. And even after an earnest attempt, if you're just like, look, guys, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, at least you tried. You know, at least an attempt was made.